Chapter 3786. The legend didn't know how he got through the last 5 hours of flight. He was counting down every second. When he sensed that the plane was about to land, his eyes flickered with a green light. It was a kind of excitement, a kind of relief, a kind of desire. He was excited because he had finally escaped from Huaxia. Because of Su Yun's lies, the whole Huaxia was a hunting ground for the legend. Countless hunters were in places he didn't know, and he was the prey that could be shot dead by the hunter at any time. So he was excited to return to Los Angeles. This was his prairie, and no hunter could hunt him here. He was relieved of the burden of his thoughts these days. Since his bad luck in Macau, the legend didn't have a good day. Every day he had to face his father's curses, and every day he had to face all kinds of things that made him sullen. He had enough. He chose to be relieved. So he felt that returning to Los Angeles was a relief. Any nightclub here was enough for him to play for 3 days and 3 nights without stopping. His desire was his desire for revenge. When he thought of the humiliation brought to him by the 2 people beside him, endless desire would rise in his heart. These desires were all telling him that he must take revenge. He must let the people who hurt him suffer 10 times, no, 100 times, what he had suffered these days. So when he saw the bright night of Los Angeles through the window, he couldn't help the desire for revenge in his heart. The City of Angels was really beautiful. It was worthy of being the 2nd largest city in the American Empire. It had the largest harbor, and Hollywood was located on the outskirts of the city. There were too many things that people yearned for here. Even the Lakers, one of the most familiar professional basketball teams in Huaxia, were in this city. It's fascinating to look at it from here. It's really beautiful here. Lin Gu also looked out of the window and said, "Brother, I promised Feng Ya that I would take her to the Walk of Fame in Los Angeles to count the stars." "You're actually that romantic?" Su Yun was stunned for a moment. The Walk of Fame was indeed a good place. There were more than 2,700 star medals, and each one represented a great Hollywood artist. The entire street was filled with 5-pointed stars. There were many parking lots on the side of the road. Not only could movie stars leave their stars here, singers, directors, and hosts all had their own stars. Under their names, different symbols marked their professions. The names of many celebrities were engraved here, including Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. The name of Su Yun's favorite director, Spielberg, was also engraved on this street. Sometimes, Su Yun also wondered how big the gap was between Huaxia's movies and Hollywood's movies. In fact, it wasn't just the gap between the scriptwriters, actors, and production. The gap between the directors was also quite big. Perhaps there were bad movies in Spielberg's movies, but in Su Yun's opinion, whether it was Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan, they were classics that were difficult to surpass. Lin Gu didn't know what Su Yun was thinking. "I've always been quite romantic. If you brought Feng Ya to Los Angeles, then you should let her be the lead in a movie." Su Yun smiled and came back to his senses. "You definitely can't miss the movie tour. Go to Universal Studios and walk into the familiar movie set, let her feel what it's like to be the lead. Take the sightseeing train and tour the famous props and sets in the Hollywood studio, and you can see the scenes and props in the movie. Haha. Then go to the souvenir shop next to the Dolby Theater and buy an Oscar statuette. Let her feel what it's like to win the Best Actress Oscar." Lin Gu thought about it and felt that it couldn't be missed. I think she'll be even more excited than when she saw Shaoli win the award live. "Do you have anywhere you want to go?" Su Yun suddenly asked. "Of course I want to go to the Staples Center to watch a game." Lin Gu laughed. "It's just that Black Mamba has retired. When will this city have another basketball superstar?" "Yes." Su Yun also grinned. "Indeed, I don't know how many years it will take. I didn't expect you to be a comet." "Not a comet. Most comets are from the 1980s and are older than me." Lin Gu laughed. "When I really started to become a fan, my comet's hands were already a bit hard. But he's definitely a youth of his generation. I love everyone. I don't hate anyone. I watch those who play well, and at most I curse those who play dirty." Su Yun smiled. "If we have time, we should really watch a game." Let's wait for Zhua Meiyan to buy a private jet before we talk about it. Let's just buy the tickets and watch the game together. A disdainful smile appeared on the legend's face as he listened to their fantasies. He replied to them in his mind, I won't give you the chance to come to Los Angeles to watch an American professional basketball game again. I definitely won't give you the chance. What are you thinking? You must be up to something. Lin Gu noticed something was wrong with the legend's face. Look at that sneaky smile. I'm just a little excited. I don't have any other thoughts. Please don't misunderstand me. The legend quickly explained. He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Could Lin Gu be able to read minds? Lin Gu didn't believe his nonsense. I'll be damned if I believe you. I definitely don't have any other thoughts. Absolutely not. Trust me. The legend shook his head. Su Yun said indifferently, It's normal for him to have such thoughts. I think he feels that since we're in his territory, the two of us should be more polite to him. Otherwise, he won't give us a good time. You're quite capable. Your territory? Lin Gu smiled at the legend. Then when we get off the plane, let me see if you can make the decisions in your territory. The legend bowed and apologized on the surface, but in his heart, he was cursing him 10,000 times. Sooner or later, I'll let you enjoy the treatment that I can give you when I'm in charge. Finally, the plane landed amidst the turbulence. After 12 hours of long-distance flight, Su Yun stood up and stretched his shoulders. He was really tired. We're here. We're here. We're finally here. The legend kept repeating these words from the moment the plane landed until he was taken off the plane by Su Yun and Lin Gu. It had always been like this. It was as if he had been possessed by a demon. Call a car to pick us up. This is Los Angeles. You should be able to handle this easily. Su Yun gave the legend his first order as soon as he got off the plane. But don't talk nonsense on the phone. The legend nodded. It was really uncomfortable to be threatened, but he didn't have the chance to resist Su Yun yet. The legend would never do anything out of line before he was 100% sure. He didn't want to fail more than anyone else. With the legend's help, a domineering Escalade came to pick them up at the airport. The driver greeted the legend politely as soon as he saw him. Tell your people that they can take a taxi home after dropping off the car, Su Yun said calmly. The legend did as he was told. He kept reminding himself that he must control his emotions and make Su Yun and Lin Gu let down their guard. Before they let down their guard, he would never do anything out of line. Never. The car was left behind. Su Yun asked Lin Gu to take the legend into the car. Su Yun then controlled the legend from the back in case he screamed or ran away. The situation in the American Empire was different from that in Huaxia. They had to be more vigilant and careful so that they wouldn't make a big mistake. Su Yun got into the car and drove skillfully onto the highway. He needed to leave the airport as soon as possible. He needed to find a relatively safe and quiet place to plan his next step. Although Su Yun wasn't familiar with Los Angeles, it wasn't his first time here. He had some impression of the place. He quickly made a judgment based on the map in his head. Therefore, Su Yun didn't get lost even though he was driving. After he got his bearings, he had a general idea of the city. Legend, I'll give you time to think. Speak when you've made up your mind, Su Yun reminded the legend as he drove. Chapter 3787. Of course, Legend had already made up his mind. He was going to bring Su Yun and the others to the fitness club. Once they reached the fitness club, he would be saved. Anyway, since you're in Los Angeles, I have to be a good host. The legend said, How about this? I'll take you to a place for a meal first. We'll take our time. I'll cooperate with whatever you want. Okay. Su Yun nodded. He wasn't sure what the legend was going to do, so he had to take one step at a time. No matter what, they had to have dinner. Since the legend said so, they would do as he said. He would figure out what he should do if he had time to think. Su Yun dared to bring him back because he wanted to give him a chance to resist. Su Yun knew that only by letting the legend have a taste of failure in the United States could he be completely used by Su Yun. If Su Yun couldn't tame him completely, Su Yun wouldn't be able to do what he wanted to do. After all, he needed the legend's cooperation. What do you want to take us to eat? Lin Ji's interest was piqued as well. I heard that in America, Caledonia, everything is meaningless. Yes, there is such a saying. You don't have to worry about running out of calories in Los Angeles. They have the best burgers in California. The legend said, the vegetables, persimmons, and potatoes are all freshly cut. They taste absolutely fresh. We sent you all the way to Los Angeles and you're going to treat us to burgers? Don't you think that's a bit too much? Lin Gu glared at the legend. Revenge. Let me tell you, you ate a lot of Chinese food on the plane. We saved the braised pork ribs for you. Do you really think we can't eat any more? The legend waved his hand and explained to Lin Gu, of course I'm not just treating you to burgers. I'm just saying, I know a lot of good restaurants. I can take you to whatever you want. You're familiar with this place. Recommend one, Su Yun said. Tell me the address. I'll navigate there. Good. All right. That was exactly what the legend of Legendary had been waiting for. He was going to take them to the restaurant opposite the gym. There were several restaurants across the gym. That was why the legend of Legendary was so confident. No matter what they wanted to eat, he was sure that they could go around it. Tell us what you want to eat first. At least give us a choice, Lin Gu said. How about this, I'll take you to eat some delicious seafood. The legend of Legendary Battle Pet Warrior said, that place has delicious pan-fried scallops. You may not know this, but pan-fried scallops are very challenging for chefs. It's not easy to strike a balance between improving the aroma and keeping the scallops fresh. The restaurant I'm taking you to can make this dish tender and juicy. The heat is just right, and it will definitely excite your taste buds. In addition, there's also tuna fish there. It's very good. It's tender and smooth, rich in layers, and locks in the freshness of the tuna fish. The legend's description was so vivid that it really whetted one's appetite. I'm tired of eating seafood on the plane. Lin Gu was unmoved. He felt that there must be something wrong with the place the legend of Legendary Battle Pet Warrior wanted them to go to. It was not because he was paranoid, but because he was thinking from another perspective. Well, let's go eat. Eat. The legend of Legendary continued, how about Korean barbecue? Although there are a lot of Korean barbecue in Los Angeles, this restaurant's 8-flavored barbecue is definitely unique and different from others. Su Yun and Lin Ji's last meal in Qingdao was Korean barbecue. In fact, there were many Korean barbecue restaurants in Qingdao, but there was nothing special about them. 8-flavored barbecue is different from ordinary barbecue. It includes 8 secret pork belly, seafood soup, roasted vegetables, mushrooms, and Korean fried rice made with seafood soup and roasted vegetables. The legend of Legendary continued, the so-called 8-flavored barbecue is made with red wine, original, ginseng, garlic, spice, curry, and chili. It's marinated in 8 special marinades. The flavors vary from light to heavy. During the barbecue, the waiter will help us mix it from red wine to chili. It's definitely exciting. Lin Gu shook his head. We just had it in Qingdao. Don't you remember? The legend of Legendary was troubled. Then, how about the Bohemian restaurant? Hearing this, Su Yun's interest was piqued. A Bohemian restaurant should be quite suitable for young couples who like romance. Pigeon, I suggest that we try it out. When you bring Fangya here, we can be more familiar with it. Well, not bad. That's a good idea. Lin Gu nodded. Tell me about it. Boss Su, you're right. The Bohemian restaurant I know is really romantic. The huge crystal chandelier and decorations, the live Bohemian music, and the delicious American and Mediterranean fusion food are all very attractive to young girls. Sounds good. Lin Gu smiled. Seeing that they were interested, the legend of Legendary continued, there's chicken, duck, pig, and beef. The most important thing is that it's cost-effective. A lamb leg is only $28. The portion is quite large. The plates are even bigger than the wash basins. You guys will definitely be amazed. The lamb leg is crispy but not greasy. There's even a Sicilian-style stew underneath. With every bite, you can feel the warm breeze from the Aegean Sea. You can even taste this way? Is it that exaggerated? Lin Gu felt that the Legend of Legendary was being very pretentious. I'm just describing it. Just describing it. The Legend of Legendary smiled. But the taste is really good. The Legend of Legendary mentioned several places, but he didn't avoid the one he wanted. The Bohemian restaurant was also opposite the gym. Okay, let's go there. Tell me the address, Su Yun said. The Legend of Legendary leaned over the armrest and started to set up the navigation system in the car. I'll input it. It's not easy to use. I'll solve it for you. About 40 minutes later, they arrived at the entrance of the Bohemian restaurant. There was quite a lot of parking. Su Yun saw the 8-flavored barbecue and the seafood dishes when he got out of the car. He immediately noticed that all the places the Legend of Legendary mentioned were in this area. This meant that there was something wrong with this area. It seemed that the Legend of Legendary had started his plan. Su Yun smiled faintly and secretly gave Lin Gu a look. Lin Gu immediately understood Su Yun's meaning. He thought to himself that this guy's actions were really fast. Originally, he thought that Su Yun would need to eat before he could properly scheme against them. Now, it seemed that wasn't the case. After eating this meal, he started scheming. Let's go upstairs. We'll take a window seat. We'll enjoy the night view of Los Angeles while eating. The Legend of Legendary was much more positive than when he was in Huaxia. His negative emotions were starting to fade. Su Yun believed that the Legend of Legendary would soon regain his confidence and become himself again. When the Legend of Legendary found himself again, Su Yun would give him another blow. He would let the Legend of Legendary know that everything he wanted was just a daydream. The three entered the restaurant. The Legend of Legendary seemed to be quite familiar with this place. He found a seat and ordered. 10 minutes later, they had their first meal since arriving in Los Angeles. The Legend of Legendary might have come here for a reason. However, the roast lamb leg he recommended was indeed delicious. It was crispy but not greasy. One bite was enough to make one want to have another bite. Lin Gu couldn't taste the warm breeze of the Aegean Sea, but he was really satisfied with this place. In the future, when he had time to bring Feng Ya to Los Angeles, he would definitely bring her here for a meal. The environment was so romantic, so suitable for couples. While the three of them were eating, the Legend of Legendary regained his confidence bit by bit. In this familiar environment, he easily changed his attitude. Su Yun and Lin Gu could already feel from his tone that this guy was really starting to treat himself as the owner of this place. He was treating them like guests and no longer felt that he was just a prisoner in their hands. Chapter 3788. Are you full? If you are, shouldn't we have a chat? Lin Gu tapped the table with his finger. Do you really think that you have nothing to do with us? You should tell us what you think. The legend of 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 the. Do you have the right to talk about conditions? Su Yun replied casually, wait until you have the capital to negotiate with me, then you can say that to me. You should know that this is Los Angeles. As long as we are in Los Angeles, I have the right to say that. The legend did not hesitate. He had seen the parking lot of the gym across the street through the restaurant's window. The tank's pickup truck was parked in front of the gym. The legendary warrior spoke differently now that he had the confidence. If I can bring you here, I can bring you back. Su Yun smiled faintly. He knew from the beginning that the legend would resist, but he didn't expect this guy to resist so quickly. You can bring me here. But you want to bring me back? Through what means? Private jet? Haha. I only need to shout in any place where there are Americans, and you will be in trouble. The legend pointed at the table. Of course, This includes this place. Lin Gu suddenly picked up the fork on the table and smiled at the legend. Why don't we have a bet? Let's see if you can shout faster or my fork is faster. You. The legendary battle pet warrior only spat out one word before he fell silent. The fork in Lin Ji's hand stopped in front of the legendary battle pet warrior's eyes in a split second. The legendary battle pet warrior even felt that the fork had touched his eyelashes. Just a millimeter or less and he would become blind. Lin Gu still had an indifferent smile on his face. Are you still going to call for help? Try threatening us. I was wrong. I didn't mean to threaten you. The Legend of Legend raised his hands and carefully moved his head back a few centimeters. Only then was he out of danger. I won't warn you twice. Lin Gu put down the fork in his hand. Although the Legend of Legend agreed on the surface, in his heart, he was saying that as long as you didn't get my assets, you wouldn't dare to do anything to me. Only with such confidence would a legend dare to face Lin Gu like this. How many assets do you have? List them yourself. Su Yun said, I'll tell you an account. You can just transfer the money into this account. This was Sky Entertainment Group's overseas bank account. Because they had business dealings with Hollywood, this was necessary. That will take time, said the legendary being. Su Yun nodded. Okay, I'll give you time. How much time do you need? Maybe it will take a long time. I can't say for sure now. The legendary battle pet warrior said, I need a specific list, or I can't tell you. Then list it now. Lin Gu snapped his fingers and asked the waiter to bring a pen and paper. The Legend of Legend smiled bitterly and shook his head. I need to go home and turn on my computer. How can I write it down? My English is very bad. I can only speak, not write. Did I ask you to write in English? Lin Gu was annoyed by the guy's tone. Then we'll go home with you now. Su Yun wasn't in a hurry. The Legend of Legend hadn't played his tricks yet. He wouldn't cooperate until the Legend of Legend was done. The Legend of Legend nodded. Okay, no problem. But I have one condition. I'm afraid you don't have the right to make conditions. Lin Gu stressed again. That's fine. Let him speak, Su Yun said. The Legend of Legend patted his abdomen. I haven't eaten well for 2 days. I ate too much just now. So, I want to go to the fitness club across the street. I want to run, ride a bike, and make some machines to burn off the calories I just absorbed. Lin Gu rolled his eyes. He had never heard of anyone making such a request under such circumstances. I'm a particular person. You know that particular people will burn off all the calories they absorbed every day. The Legend of Legend said, I hope you can understand me. It's my habit. Do you understand? Understand my ass. Lin Gu almost slapped him. Okay, you can go. Su Yun nodded and agreed to the Legend of Legend's request. He would like to see if there was anyone in the fitness club who could save him. Lin Gu stared at Su Yun with his eyes wide open. He couldn't understand why Su Yun would do that. Brother, why do you care about him? Burn calories. If he really wants to burn them off, I can give him a good beating. I'll make sure he burns them all. If you dare to hit me, someone will call the police. The Legend of Legend threatened Lin Gu. Who are you kidding? What's wrong with calling the police? You're talking as if there's no police in Huaxia. Who hasn't seen a police station before? Lin Gu said, Do you think I don't know what kind of country the United States is? It's a country that values martial arts. Countless fights happen every day. Who cares about that? To be honest, it wasn't a big deal for people in the United States to fight with their fists. Usually, people would take out guns. It wasn't wrong to say that this was a country that valued martial arts. A lot of things had proven that this country supported the spirit of martial arts. There was once a piece of news that said that a 14-year-old boy in Florida had been bullied and attacked by his schoolmate and his accomplice. Therefore, the two got into a fight on a bus. The bad boy followed the boy off the bus and punched him in the head. Then, the boy stabbed the bad boy in the chest and abdomen 12 times, piercing his heart and dying. In the end, the Florida District Court judge ruled that the boy was not guilty of murder based on the No Concession Act. This was the United States' right to self-help and violent resistance. It was a manifestation of the spirit of martial arts. The school bullies had caused a death in self-defense. Because these bad boys had been bullying the boy maliciously, it had been going on for a year. The bad boy who was killed was the leader, and the school knew about it. Therefore, the school had to bear some responsibility after the incident. In short, according to the No Concession Act, the boy who acted in self-defense was found not guilty. What if something like this happened in Hua-Xia? How many bullied teenagers would dare to fight back and take out a knife to fight back? Perhaps only Xie Wendong in the novel could fight back and become the leader after being bullied. That was the plot in Hua-Xia's online novels. In reality, there weren't many people who could do it. Even if there was an outburst of resistance, it was impossible to really injure the bad boys. In the end, it would only lead to a group attack by the bad boys, which would make the bullying even more serious. On this point, Hua-Xia should really learn from the United States approach and have a No Concession Act. That was to say, if someone harmed you or did something unjust to you, and public authority couldn't give you the protection you deserved, then you had the right to fight back and defend your rights, especially the right to personal safety. Even if you killed the person who harmed you, you wouldn't be judged as excessive self-defense. Justifiable self-defense shouldn't be considered excessive. If this really happened, it was believed that the increasingly serious school violence in Hua-Xia would decrease a lot. After all, those bad boys who liked to bully others were definitely afraid of death. There was an old saying in Hua-Xia, "Kill the chicken to warn the monkey, or kill one to warn the 100." The bullied children should pick up the weapon in their hands and kill the head of the bad boys in school. Moreover, they didn't need to bear any legal responsibility. This way, the other trash in school wouldn't dare to cause trouble. Of course, there were loopholes in this point, but at least it could limit the increasingly serious school violence in Hua-Xia. Okay, let's pay the bill and leave. Hurry up and use up your calories. Su Yun stood up and said something that Lin Gu didn't quite understand with a smile. I think after we go there, we might need to use up some calories. Lin Gu could understand the meaning behind these words, but the legend didn't take it seriously at all. Chapter 3789. The Legend of Legend led Su Yun and Lin Gu to the door of the fitness club across the street. This was the 8th time the legend couldn't help but sneak a peek at the big pickup truck. Su Yun could almost see through him. Then let's go, the legend said excitedly. This is one of the top gyms in Los Angeles. You won't regret it. Su Yun nodded and gestured for the legend to lead the way. He then gestured to Lin Gu from behind. Lin Gu smiled knowingly. He took out a coin from his pocket and flicked it out with a whoosh. The coin pierced through the large pickup truck's fuel tank with a crisp sound. The crack wasn't big, but it was enough to drain all the gas in the truck in 10 minutes. Hearing the noise, the legend of legendary battle pet warriors turned around. They didn't notice anything unusual, so they turned around and walked back into the gym. Su Yun had already guessed that there would be someone in the gym who could help the legend. However, Su Yun didn't expect to see an acquaintance of the legend as soon as he entered the gym. Su Yun felt that he had underestimated the scheming of a legendary battle pet warrior. Hey, my brother. When did you come back? The bodyguard, who was as fat as a black bear, saw the legend immediately. This was how people in his line of work should be. They had to be alert and alert. They had to be able to see who was behind them. That was how a qualified bodyguard should be. Just came back. The legend gave the bodyguard a look. As expected of a top-notch bodyguard with a high price, the tank immediately understood his boss's intention. He immediately stood in front of the Legend of Legends and asked Su Yun and Lin Gu with a smile, "Did you bring back 2 more friends?" Although the fat man was smiling, he didn't put down the bow in his hand. The first floor of the gym was the archery hall. The tank's hobby was bows and crossbows. He liked them all. Perhaps it was because he was tired of playing with firearms, so he especially liked to study cold weapons. To be exact, we should be the ones who brought him back. If it wasn't for us, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to come back. Su Yun smiled and took a step forward to test the fatty's reaction. As expected, the tank immediately raised the bow in his hand and pulled back the bowstring. At this moment, he was only 2 to 3 meters away from Su Yun, but he directly aimed his bow at Su Yun's forehead. Although this kind of practice arrow was not particularly sharp, but at this distance, with the strength of a meat shield, it was definitely enough to pierce through Su Yun's head. However, Su Yun didn't show any fear. "Is this how you treat your friends?" The bodyguard thought that he misunderstood the legend when he saw how nonchalant Su Yun was. "That's right. This is how I treat my friends." With the bodyguard by his side, the legend's aura increased. The bodyguard was also certain that the two people in front of him weren't friends. He wasn't alone. He had a lot of brothers with him. For a bodyguard like the bodyguard, he wouldn't be able to survive in the American Mafia if he didn't have some skills. Since the legend had said that he had to treat them well, the bodyguard didn't want to disappoint his boss. He glanced at one of his brothers, and the bodyguard immediately ran up to the second floor. "He's going to call someone, right?" Lin Gu asked Su Yun. Su Yun nodded. "What else could it be? There are so many of you downstairs. Don't you think it's enough?" Lin Gu pointed at the 7 or 8 burly bodyguards standing in front of them. "You can't bully people like this. Don't you think it's a bit too much?" The bodyguard ignored them. The bow in his hand was still aimed at Su Yun. The staff of the fitness club also realized the danger of the situation. They all ran away. However, no one in the club called the police. It seemed that everyone was on the bodyguard's side. After all, the bodyguard was a guest of the club, and Su Yun and Lin Gu were just 2 Hua Xia people. There wasn't a single Hua Xia person in the fitness club. Perhaps it was because there weren't many Hua Xia people who liked to work out. Some of the Hua Xia people who had the time to work out couldn't afford to come to such an expensive place like this. Those who could afford to spend money probably didn't have the time to come to the gym. In any case, there weren't many rich people in Hua Xia who could be like the rich people in the American Empire. They had all the time in the world to work out, and making money was just a side job. Soon, more than 20 tall and burly Americans came down from the second floor. Originally, Westerners and Americans were taller than Asians. These guys were all fitness enthusiasts, so their bodies were even stronger. The Legend of Mir had a total of 30 people with different skin colors. However, all of them were respectful to the Legend of Mir, who was not very strong. This did not mean that the Legend of Mir was superior to the others. It was just that the Legend of Mir had a lot of money that allowed him to be above everyone present. "Bro, maybe you're thinking too much," Su Yun said. "You don't need to be so formal to welcome us." The legend thought that Su Yun was scared, so he became even more arrogant. "Have you forgotten how you treated me before? Do you want me to remind you?" Do you want to? I think I should really remind you." Su Yun smiled. "Okay." As he spoke, Su Yun had the intention to move forward again. The tank's grip on his bow tightened. "Stop. I'm warning you to stop right now. If I don't stop, do you really dare to shoot through me?" Su Yun sneered. He had no intention of stopping. The bodyguard was really a ruthless person. He slightly changed the direction of his arrow and aimed at Su Yun's left shoulder. But the moment he moved, Su Yun made a judgment. Su Yun knew that the bodyguard was going to shoot him and make him lose the ability to continue fighting. So, the moment the bodyguard released the arrow, Su Yun had already dodged. The arrow brushed past Su Yun's clothes and pierced through the floor. It didn't hurt Su Yun at all. At the same time, Su Yun and Lin Gu also made their move. Su Yun used his fastest speed to grab the bodyguard's throat. Before the bodyguard could wave his bow to block, Su Yun lifted his huge body and threw him out. The bodyguard's body wasn't the size of an ordinary person. Only the people present could understand how terrifying it was when such a huge fatty was thrown out. Seeing the bodyguard's body fall heavily on the archery range, the bodyguard's brothers raised their fists. The martial spirit of the Americans could be seen here. Many of them understood that they were no match for Su Yun, but they still came forward to fight. This was different from many Hua Xia people. Most Hua Xia people knew that they weren't a match for the other party, so they didn't dare to act recklessly. Facing so many people, Lin Gu didn't stay idle. He raised his fists and went forward. He wouldn't show mercy to these muscular men. If he didn't use some strength, they wouldn't feel pain. Therefore, Lin Ji's fists were able to tear apart his opponent's muscles with almost every punch. That kind of pain was far greater than the pain of ordinary punches and kicks. Although it was also a flesh wound, it was more troublesome for the injured muscles to recover. Su Yun didn't have it easy either. Just as he threw the bodyguard out, he was surrounded by 4 or 5 people. These people had a certain level of fighting foundation and were very strong. Moreover, one of them was a running back on a football team. His physical fitness was even better. His ability to withstand hits was definitely not a problem. Just as Su Yun and Lin Gu were surrounded, the bodyguard who was thrown out by Su Yun stood up. Although he was thrown by Su Yun and his organs were in a mess, his mind was still clear. He was very clear about what his duty was. He was not a gangster who fought on the street, nor was he a gangster who participated in gunfights. He was a bodyguard. His primary goal was to protect his boss. He had to protect the legend from harm. This was his primary mission. As long as this was achieved, nothing else mattered. Chapter 3790. The moment the meat shield got up, he pulled the legendary battle pet warrior and ran away. While Su Yun and Lin Gu were being surrounded, he ran away. What are you doing? The legendary battle pet warrior glared at him. Why are you running? There are so many of us. Are you afraid that we can't beat the 2 of them? Go for him. I want you to teach them a lesson. The meat shield was very principled. Boss, I'm your bodyguard, not your hired thug. I'm telling you responsibly that these 2 people are not simple people. For your safety, you have to come with me. While the 2 of them were talking, another 2 people were knocked down and sent flying. The meat shield knew that the situation was very bad. He estimated that his people would not be able to hold on for as long as he expected. When Su Yun dodged the arrow and threw him out, the meat shield was already mentally prepared for his people to lose. Even if there were only 2 people on the other side, they could still lose. Just look at Su Yun's attacks. They were all aimed at the joints. Most people would lose at least a third of their combat strength after being hit. The pain would distract them. When they were distracted, it was easy for the opponent to hit them again. If they were hit again, it would usually be a vital point. Even if they did not die, they could easily be knocked out. At the very least, they would completely lose their ability to fight and defend. Therefore, the meat shield was very sure that the 2 opponents were very dangerous people. If King spent so much effort to lure them here so that you can teach them a lesson. Not keep running. The legendary battle pet warrior did not listen to the meat shield at all. After all, there were more than 30 of them. More than 30 people, all of them strong foreigners with fighting experience. If they still ran away, it would be too embarrassing. We have to go. The meat shield was too lazy to explain to the legendary battle pet warrior. He dragged him and ran out. Su Yun and Lin Gu both noticed the 2 running out. However, they were still surrounded and could not chase after them. Looks like we have to be a little more efficient, Su Yun said. Otherwise, the American Empire is so big. It won't be easy to find them. After Lin Gu knocked down a guy with a kick, he nodded and said, "Got it, brother." The tank dragged the legend out and brought him to his big pickup truck. What are you going to do? Escape. The legendary warrior looked at the meat shield in confusion. There are so many of us, and you want to take me away? Protecting your safety is my first priority, nothing else matters, the tank replied nonchalantly. Let's go now, I'll explain everything once you're safe. While getting into the car, the 2 of them were still arguing about whether to escape or stay. They didn't notice the smell of gasoline at all. After the meat shield got on the car, he couldn't ignite the ignition. Other than the humming sound of the car engine, there was no other reaction. What's wrong with that? The legend glared at the meat shield. Do you have to be so embarrassed even if you want to escape? At this time, the Legend of Legend began to panic. He had insisted on not running away, but in just a minute, Su Yun and Lin Gu had taken down all the strong guys. Legend looked out of the car and saw Su Yun and Lin Gu rolling up their sleeves and walking towards them. How did they end the battle so quickly? Crazy. This is really crazy. Who the hell are these two guys? No, are they even human? The Legend of Legend's mind was blank. The car couldn't start, and the meat shield was dumbfounded. He didn't know that Lin Gu had destroyed his fuel tank and some of the ignition circuits with a single coin. So the car couldn't start at all. While the Legend of Legend was still in a daze, Lin Gu walked to the car door to open it, but the door was locked. Lin Gu suddenly pulled the door open. The Legend of Legend didn't know how to resist and was dragged out of the car. Lin Gu knew that they didn't have time to waste. After they took down the guys from the gym, someone called the police. The American Empire cities were dispatched very quickly. Compared to most places in Huaxia, the American Empire cities were like two extremes. Don't move. The meat shield didn't have time to get out of the car, but he had already taken out his pistol. However, Su Yun, who was standing not too far away, suddenly lit up the lighter in his hand and gave the meat shield a mysterious smile. The meat shield lost his temper instantly. He finally realized why his car couldn't start. The strong smell of gasoline made him slowly put down the pistol in his hand. Because once Su Yun threw the lighter in his hand, his car would explode, and he would be blown up to the point where not even his flesh would be left. Lin Gu stuffed the Legend of Legend into the car. Su Yun suddenly threw the lighter in his hand. The meat shield didn't hesitate for a second. He opened the door and jumped out of the car, then quickly ran away. He didn't want to die. Su Yun, who threw the lighter, got into the car immediately and stepped on the accelerator. The car roared away. The meat shield, who was lying on the ground waiting for the explosion, was stunned. With so much gasoline leaking out, it should have been easy for the car to explode. Why wasn't there any reaction at all? The meat shield stood up carefully. Seeing that there wasn't even a spark, he carefully walked closer to take a look. It turned out that Su Yun didn't throw the lighter in his hand. His hand was too fast. He had swapped the lighter right under his nose. Su Yun didn't even think about blowing up the car. It was his first day in the United States. He didn't want to cause trouble like an explosion right away. That would be too rude. However, just as the meat shield was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a crazy bald black youth ran over from afar. He wasn't wearing a shirt, and his body was covered in tattoos. He had a cigarette in his mouth and was waving his hands around. It was obvious that he was high on drugs. The meat shield instantly felt his scalp go numb. The crazy bald black youth rushed over and casually spat out the cigarette in his mouth. The moment the figure flashed past, the ground was instantly set ablaze. The meat shield turned around and fell to the ground. The car quickly caught fire and exploded in an instant. Bits and pieces of the car fell from the sky and scattered all over the ground. This was reality. It wasn't a scene from a Hollywood action movie. That kind of scene was often seen in Hollywood action movies. Flames flew out from the car's engine compartment. At first, it was relatively small, but after a while, with a loud explosion, the entire car was engulfed in flames. Those who knew the industry knew that this kind of explosion wasn't realistic. A car wouldn't explode after it caught fire. The explosion scenes shown in Hollywood movies were just thrilling scenes created by the producers using pyrotechnics to increase the box office. After a car's engine compartment caught fire, it would take a long time for the fire to spread throughout the car. The Munich branch of the Chuanda Automobile Club had clearly said that a normal car would never explode after it caught fire unless there were explosives in the car. That's right. The meat shield's car had explosives. That was why he was so scared. As for why Su Yun knew that there were explosives in the car, it was because he had smelled a trace of gunpowder before entering the gym. That was why Su Yun gave Lin Gu a look and told him to destroy the car's fuel tank and ignition system. After all, Lin Gu only needed a coin to do something like that. For Lin Gu, it was too easy. The meat shield got up from the ground and looked at his car that had turned into ashes. He cursed angrily. At this time, the American Empire's police had rushed over. Originally, they had received a report of a fight. However, when they arrived, there was an explosion. Such an earth-shattering change shocked even the police. They didn't understand what had happened. The meat shield didn't want to get entangled with the police. After all, the car that had exploded was his, and the explosives in the car were his. He didn't want to tell anyone what he wanted to do with the explosives. He also didn't want the police to interrogate him endlessly. The people who had been beaten up in the gym didn't dare to say anything because of the explosion. In any case, the police wouldn't be able to find anything substantial here. At most, they would get some surveillance footage from the gym surveillance system. Those were insignificant things to the police. If the people who had been beaten up didn't insist on investigating this matter, the Los Angeles police wouldn't have the time to investigate an explosion that was related to a gang fight. Chapter 3791. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. The police system of the American Empire was different from that of Hua-Xia. There were many types of police in the American Empire, such as state police, mounted police, patrol police, federal marshals, town police, county sheriffs, and even the FBI, which had the highest exposure in American blockbusters. They were all different, and no one would give face to the other. However, no one wanted to cause trouble for themselves. Since the guys who were beaten up were willing to swallow their anger, the police naturally asked a few questions. At most, they would arrange for the fire department to deal with it, in case the explosion caused an unnecessary fire. As for those who appeared in the surveillance footage, the police would make a symbolic record, make a copy, and take it away. No one really wanted to make a big fuss about arresting people. In any case, they saw 3 figures from Hua-Xia in the surveillance footage, so they didn't pay much attention to them. As for the meat shield, he had a certain reputation in the area. As long as he didn't commit unforgivable crimes such as murder, arson, and bank robbery, the police wouldn't want to provoke him. The ultimate beneficiary of this matter was, of course, Su Yun. The legend was once again under their control, and there was not a single police officer on the streets of Los Angeles to stop them. This was quite different from what was shown in blockbusters. The legend's heart had completely fallen to the bottom. He had never imagined that he would fall to such a state in Los Angeles. It was simply too pitiful. "I beg you, please give me a chance, okay?" The legend became a pleading little lamb again. "I know I was wrong. I know I shouldn't have done that. I was hot-headed. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I beg you." Su Yun ignored him. This was all part of Su Yun's plan. He knew that something like this would happen, so when it really happened, Su Yun didn't feel anything. "I'm telling you, don't F***King play this game with me." Lin Gu raised his hand and slapped the legendary battle pet warrior's head. "You think you can defeat us with this bunch of people? That's not what I meant. I didn't want to fight. I don't know why, but they did." The legendary battle pet warrior said innocently. "Io, from what you're saying, are you saying that we asked for it?" Lin Gu couldn't help but raise his hand to slap him again. The legendary battle pet warrior held his head in fear and begged, "I was wrong. I was wrong. He was really wrong. I won't do it again." "That fatty is your bodyguard?" Su Yun said as he drove, "You have a unique insight. This kind of agile fatty is quite difficult to deal with." The legendary battle pet warrior didn't know how to answer Su Yun's question. "I'm asking you if you are." Lin Gu glared. Yes. The legendary battle pet warrior came to his senses and nodded hurriedly. Su Yun touched his nose. "You're pretty smart. You found a place where your personal bodyguard would appear. You already had a plan when you invited us to dinner, right?" The legendary battle pet warrior lowered his head and didn't say anything. "That's good. At least your people in Los Angeles will know that you're in trouble." Su Yun laughed. "If you give him a high enough salary, I'm sure he'll come up with a plan to rescue you." The legendary battle pet warrior was at a loss. Why? Is it because he has feelings for you? Of course not. But he has feelings for your money. In the United States, everybody likes green money. Su Yun said, he'll take risks for money. How high is enough? The legendary battle pet warrior was stunned. Su Yun looked through the rearview mirror and sneered. It seems that you're confident that he'll come up with a plan to rescue you. No, that's not what I think. I just think. I don't want us to continue this misunderstanding. I hope we can resolve it as soon as possible, said the legendary battle pet warrior. Let's sit down and explain everything. What do you think we have to explain to him? Tell him that you have nothing now and all your assets have to be handed over to us. Tell him that you're a pauper who can't afford to hire him? Su Yun said straightforwardly. What do you think he'll do if that's the case? Continue to protect you? The legendary battle pet warrior didn't know how to answer again. He knew that the meat shield was doing this for money. If the legendary battle pet warrior didn't have money to pay him, he wouldn't continue to protect him. This was completely contradictory. If the meat shield wanted to earn money from the legendary battle pet warrior, he would have to deal with Su Yun and Lin Gu first and then save the legendary battle pet warrior. Only then would he be able to ensure that he would receive his salary. Although he had millions of dollars in employment fees every year, this money wasn't given to him in a lump sum. Every quarter, the meat shield would receive $400,000 from the legendary battle pet warrior. 4 quarters a year, he would receive a salary of $1,600,000. For special occasions, the legendary battle pet warrior would give him some extra money. For example, if the meat shield could successfully save him, he would receive at least $100,000 as a reward. Therefore, the meat shield would receive close to $2 million from the legendary battle pet warrior every year. $2 million a year was a huge sum of money for the Americans. Let's put it this way. Doctors in the United States were considered to have a high salary. Their annual salary was around $150,000. Pilots only made around $150,000 a year. Those who made more than $100,000 a year were judges, lawyers, or electrical engineers. Those who worked as financial managers or financial analysts only made around $80,000 to $90,000 a year. This was the income of a normal job. Actually, this wasn't bad. After all, an A6 in the United States sold for around $40,000. A normal low-income worker could afford it with a year-and-a-half salary. The cheapest A6 in Huaxia was close to $400,000. A normal low-income worker in Huaxia only made $20,000 a year. It would take 20 years for them to afford it. Therefore, $2 million a year was a very high annual salary for the Americans. This was also the reason why the black people in the United States played football, baseball, and basketball from a young age. Because once they became a professional athlete in these sports leagues, their annual salary would explode. And if they studied hard and relied on Harvard or something, they might not be able to earn more than $100,000 a year after graduation. However, if they were lucky enough to be signed by a professional basketball team, their annual salary would be close to $1 million. They could easily earn tens of millions if they made a name for themselves. In this day and age, once they became the star of a team, or even the second in command, they could sign a contract worth over $100 million. In short, it wasn't easy for the Americans to make money. People like the meat shield who relied on this skill to make a living were rare. They did dangerous things, so naturally, they earned enough money. The legendary battle pet warrior felt that the money he gave the meat shield was enough for him to come up with a rescue plan. It was definitely enough. Anyone would be tempted. Although Su Yun and Lin Gu weren't people to be trifled with, there were only 2 of them. This would give the meat shield a chance. The legendary battle pet warrior believed that the meat shield wouldn't let him down. Seeing that you've thought about it for so long, it means that you've given him enough money. He definitely won't let go of your bank card. Su Yun saw through the legendary battle pet warrior's thoughts. He said to the legendary battle pet warrior, "How about this? I'm not someone who won't give you a chance. Where do you live? We'll go to your house and wait. If your bodyguard has the heart, he will definitely come to you." The legendary battle pet warrior couldn't believe Su Yun's words. He looked at Su Yun in shock. You're really willing to give me a chance? Of course. I always keep my word. Su Yun. Go home and wait. If your bodyguard really gives up on you, then there's nothing I can do. The legendary battle pet warrior swallowed and said in surprise, Why are you doing this? You don't have to do this. It would be boring if I didn't do this. Su Yun smiled. Lin Gu patted the legendary battle pet warrior's shoulder. This is what we want. You don't really think you have a chance, do you? If you're that naive, then prepare yourself for disappointment. We'll definitely disappoint you again and again. The legendary battle pet warrior opened his mouth and looked at Lin Gu in shock. His mind was in a mess, but Lin Ji's words made him lose half of his confidence. Chapter 3792. Where's your home? I don't want to waste my time wandering around the streets. Su Yun wasn't being chased by the police, but it was still dangerous to wander around the streets. Su Yun was sure that the police would get the surveillance footage and the license plate number. So, the longer they stayed on the streets, the more dangerous it would be. Beverly Hills, said the legend in a low voice. That's really extravagant. Lin Gu glared. Beverly Hills was the richest neighborhood in Los Angeles. The Platinum Triangle of Los Angeles was a well-known neighborhood for the rich. Everybody knew about Beverly Hills, Holmby Hills and Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills was a symbol of status for celebrities. Countless Hollywood stars, tycoons, architects and musicians had settled down here. Apart from the value of the houses themselves, the selling price also depended on who used to live there. This is the place your father chose, right? Su Yun asked. The legend nodded. Beverly Hills is very private. It's quiet and secluded, and the air is much better than in other places. That's right. Beverly Hills is different from the extravagant mansions in other luxury neighborhoods. Many of the mansions have their own gates, which are either surrounded by tall trees, or have closed iron gates, or long private driveways. It's very difficult for passers-by to see the real face of the mansion or the owner. Su Yun said, That place is very private and safe. It's quiet and beautiful. It's very suitable for retirement. Those who lived here were all Hollywood movie stars, NBA basketball stars, world-renowned artists, and tycoons from all over the world. They all bought houses and land here, and all sorts of famous people lived here. But he had never met a legendary figure. Michael Jackson, Brad Pitt, Shaquille O'Neal, Jackie Chan, the owner of Playboy magazine and many other famous people owned or had owned mansions here. Their mansions were looming in the woods, luxurious and mysterious. It was not hard to imagine how private this place was. As long as someone didn't want to see it, it was impossible to touch it. In addition, Beverly Hills was famous for its mountain and sea views and Los Angeles cityscapes. To the north of Santa Monica Boulevard was the real luxury area of Beverly Hills. The further north you went, the more beautiful the scenery was. The scenery was also the key to determining the price of a house. In the heart of Beverly Hills was the world-renowned shopping paradise, Rodeo Boulevard. On both ends of Rodeo Boulevard were the Beverly Hills Hotel and the Four Seasons Hotel, two of the top hotels in Los Angeles. In between, there were more than 100 branded stores, as well as high-end custom-made brands at the top of the ivory tower of the fashion industry. The businesses were all south of Santa Monica Avenue. The rich people in this place could afford to be extravagant, because there was everything they could afford. The Beverly Center was the premier high-end luxury shopping center in Southern California. Located at the foot of Beverly Hills, the busiest area in West Hollywood, the Beverly Center was the best place to buy the season's luxury goods. More importantly, there were more than 100 shops in the Beverly Hills shopping center that accepted the Huaxia Union Pay card. It was easy to imagine how many luxury goods Huaxia people bought. Of course, many rich people earned their money through their own efforts, but it was unlikely that these rich people would spend luxury goods unscrupulously. The Huaxia people who unscrupulously spent their money on luxury goods in this place might not be as clean as they thought they were. The streets of Beverly Hills were also interspersed with famous restaurants from all over the world and Mickey Mouse restaurants. These places could be reached on foot because the sidewalks in Beverly Hills were very wide and clean. You could also enjoy the beautiful buildings on the side of the road. There was also a top university here. UCLA was located in the southwest of Beverly Hills. Hua Xia had a lot of international students. Legend was an international student at this school. The first thing he did when he came to study in the United States was to buy a super villa in Beverly Hills. Then, he bought 5 luxury cars. In the following year, he bought another 8 luxury cars, filling up the 13 parking spaces of the super villa. In short, Legend was the most arrogant student in his class. The captain of the football team was arrogant in front of others, but in front of Legend, he really couldn't be tough. Originally, the blonde cheerleaders in the school would hang out with the guys from the football team or the basketball team. Especially the captain and the quarterback of the football team, who were tall, strong, and handsome white boys, had a noble pride in their bones. There wasn't a girl who wouldn't like it, especially the cheerleader. She was a passionate girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. But Legend always had a way to get the girls. It was because he had enough capital. Any girl would like to sit in his limited edition sports cars, have a candlelight dinner in a 5-star Michelin restaurant, and then have sex in a super villa in Beverly Hills. Legend's modern-style villa was considered very impressive in Beverly Hills. His super villa was located in a superior location and enjoyed its own privacy. It was located at the top of a hill. Looking around, it was either a lush scenery or an open and comfortable view of the sea. No matter which room it was always a pleasure to enjoy the sunshine. Which girl wouldn't like it? And it would only take 8 minutes to get back to UCLA the next day after having sex. Legend's villa used a lot of high-tech. It was unique in the wealthy district of Los Angeles. Most of the mansions in other areas were designed in American or European style. At present, some old houses were demolished and rebuilt. They were all built in a modern style, which was very popular in Beverly Hills. All the girls would fall in love with this modern and extremely luxurious villa with a sea view. Here, you could enjoy the spectacular sea view, the surrounding city and canyon scenery, and even the charming sunset. Legend's villa suite had a billiard banquet hall, a well-equipped bar, an advanced private theater, a large laundry room, a storage room, and a gym with more comprehensive facilities than ordinary gyms. The gorgeous large open kitchen was equipped with the most advanced modern appliances, wine cabinets, and a double archipelago design. There was also a large steam shower room, and a large curved TV in the bathroom. There was no lack of fireplaces, large private office areas, and entertainment areas. It was only a 20-minute drive away from the Hollywood Amphitheater. In short, no one would want to leave after coming here. That was why Legend had brought countless blonde and blue-eyed girls to his super villa to have sex. Everyone in the school was envious of him. Even if there were students from Huaxia who wanted to compete with him in terms of wealth, they were defeated by him. His family's money came too easily, so he didn't care about spending it. All the girls in the school knew that as long as they could make the legendary battle pet warrior smile at them, they would most likely receive an invitation to dinner in the evening. As long as they went to dinner with the legendary battle pet warrior, they would at least receive a 1-carat diamond necklace as a gift. The luxurious lifestyle of a legend was well known throughout the entire academy. Seeing the car getting closer and closer to his house, Legend's mind became more and more distant. He only realized how terrifying the power of money was when he came to the United States to study. The power of money was completely unimaginable to humans, especially in a capitalist country like the United States. The country's reverence for money had reached a new height that Legend had never thought of before. Ever since he came to the United States, Legend couldn't think of any problem that couldn't be solved with money. If he encountered a problem that couldn't be solved with money, he only needed to say one word to solve it: double it. If he couldn't double it, he would double it. If he couldn't double it, he would quadruple it. No matter how big the problem was, as long as he was willing to double it, he would be able to solve it. Chapter 3793. Legend remembered very clearly that the day after he took the blonde cheerleader away in his Pagani, which was worth millions of dollars, the quarterback of the football team drove his Dodge Ram and blocked him at the parking lot with the rest of the football team. When the group of people took out their baseball bats, Legend got out of the car and told them, "There are only 25 of them in the world. The body of the car is made of carbon fiber and is one of a kind. You people can't afford it even if you go bankrupt." This sentence obviously shocked many people present. However, the quarterback still continued to encourage his brothers to attack the legendary battle team. Legend took out his wallet and threw the stacks of green dollars on the ground. A cool breeze blew past, and thousands of US dollars were blown all over the place. Someone couldn't help but grab the green US dollars that were floating around. The Legend of Legends said, "This is just money that I threw away for fun. If any of you are on my side today, come to this place tomorrow after school. 10,000 each. I mean what I say." While these people were still in doubt, the blonde cheerleader also stood out in the car. "His house in Beverly Hills is bigger than your football field. Do you think he will lie?" That day, Legend didn't even move a finger, but the quarterback of the football team was beaten black and blue by his teammates. The quarterback's Dodge Ram was also smashed into pieces and was on the verge of being scrapped. That night, Legend took the beauty to a 5-star Michelin restaurant to eat delicious food, watched a movie in his super studio, worked out in his gym, swam in his swimming pool, and then had an unforgettable underwater sex. That was the day Legend thought he understood money the most thoroughly. Money was omnipotent. Who said money couldn't buy love? Legend didn't think so. Legend believed that money could buy love, and he could buy the love of whoever he wanted. As long as he had enough money, there would be enough girls to love him. That was right, that was what he thought. Who said money couldn't buy health? Legend didn't think so either. His neighbors in Beverly Hills were all rich people. Some people's hearts, livers, and even internal organs were unhealthy. But with money, they could get transplants. With money, they could get the best medical equipment and conditions. With money, they could continue to live and enjoy life. Who said money couldn't buy friendship? Legends were even more disdainful. In today's money-oriented society, how could you talk about friendship without money? Other than those who grew up with you and could call you brothers, the rest of the people would only befriend you for money. Without money, there would be no friendship. It was just like the guys in the football team. At first, they were standing behind their captain, but when the Legend threw money out, these guys changed crazily. A mere $10,000 could change a person's attitude towards a friend. They might not be worthy of being called brothers, but it was enough to be called friends, right? Because of that, the Legend realized that anyone who was a friend could betray you. If they didn't, it was because they didn't get enough money. For example, the Legend had offered everyone $100 to help him beat the quarterback. What can you do with $100? It wouldn't even be enough for a meal at a good restaurant or a few drinks at a bar, so no one would choose to betray them. But 10,000 USD was different. There were so many things that could be done with $10,000. Even if these people were from a 2-parent family, their parents' monthly income might not even be $10,000. After deducting all kinds of bills, there was not much left. $10,000 could buy so many things in the United States. It could even buy a good second-hand car. No one would refuse such a temptation. After this incident, the Legend was very sure that anyone would bow in front of money. Yes, anyone. Whether it was the prettiest goddess in school or the most upright teacher on the surface, the Legend could get them with money. The Legend could use his notoriety as a playboy to keep dating the pretty girls in school. Even if he changed girls every day, there would still be girls who would go after him. According to the Legend's grades, it was impossible for him to graduate from university. But he only needed money. He could easily get an A in any course. He only had one secret, and that was money. With enough money, it was enough to make people give up their dignity, their principles, and everything they stood for. As long as there was enough money, there was nothing that couldn't be done. It was said that money was evil, but in the Legend's eyes, money was omnipotent. At that time, he began to rely on money. He felt that he could lose everything in his life except for money. He would rather lose his family, his love, his friendship, his health, and everything. He did not want to lose money. Money was the most important thing to him. It was only when a legend had this idea that he understood why money was said to be all evil. Because he was a person who had been completely changed by money. He was a person who had been corrupted by money. He had completely lost his original worldview and values. He had completely become a slave to money. Although on the surface, he was the master of money, in fact, he had become a slave to money. During the days when he was studying in the United States, the legend only had one thing to do every day, and that was to spend money. At that time, he hadn't come into contact with what his father did. At that time, he enjoyed the feeling of being admired by thousands of people every day. He was the legend of the whole school. He felt that at that time, his name in the eyes of others should be Tycoon Carlos Chuan. Every time someone affectionately called him Chuan or Carlos, he knew that the person must be trying to get something out of him. If it wasn't for money, no one would care about him. For example, there were some outstanding Hua Xia students in this school. Those students didn't have much money, but their grades were excellent. Their only capital was to compete for the poor scholarship. In fact, the amount of scholarship was quite considerable in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the legend's eyes, it was really pitiful. He really didn't care about it at all. The scholarships that those good students earned through hard work throughout the year were not even enough for him to take the blonde captain of the cheerleading squad to a candlelight dinner in a 5-star Michelin restaurant. Therefore, he really did not think much of it. The legend knew that if he didn't have money, he would be like other Hua Xia students. Even if he got a scholarship every year, no one would pay attention to him. Especially those beautiful girls. Beautiful girls would rather sleep with athletes than pay attention to those nerds. But once he had enough money, the legend could put his status above those athletes. Perhaps what the girls wanted was not physical and physiological satisfaction, but spiritual satisfaction. Only with enough money would one have the right to pursue spiritual satisfaction. A limited edition luxury bag or a piece of luxury jewelry could bring about a sense of spiritual satisfaction that overrode any physical or physiological feelings. There was no doubt about that. Legendary battle pet warriors knew it all too well. Although he was very satisfied with the beautiful girls around him, it was definitely not as exciting as getting a limited edition sports car. The legend was also a person who pursued spiritual satisfaction, so he understood. The car finally arrived at the gate of the legend's house. The car was equipped with sensors. The gate opened slowly, and Su Yun slowly drove in. The housekeeper immediately ordered the driver to stand at the gate and help to park the car. It seems that you have helped the American Empire solve many jobs. Su Yun sneered. The legend didn't dare to say anything. In fact, he only hired a housekeeper to help him manage the house when he was not at home, a driver to drive him occasionally, a cook to prepare breakfast for him every day, and 2 servants to clean the house. The place he lived in was too big for one servant to handle. These people would come home after work at night. When the legend called the housekeeper to arrange a car to pick him up at the airport, the housekeeper knew that he was coming back today. So the housekeeper asked everyone to come home and greet him when he came back. After all, they were earning his salary. They had to know their limits. Chapter 3794. After the 3 got out of the car, Legend immediately said to the housekeeper, "There's nothing for you to do here. You can all go back." Naturally, the housekeeper didn't dare to ask too much about Legend's business. He immediately nodded and told everyone to leave. Before the servants left, Legend also specifically told the chef that there was no need to prepare breakfast the next morning. Everyone didn't need to come unless he called to arrange it. Otherwise, they would all have a paid vacation. Paid vacations were what Americans loved the most. They didn't have to work and they still got paid. They could use their free time for leisure and entertainment. Why not? Legend took the initiative to show his goodwill to Su Yun. He didn't want to aggravate the conflict between him and Su Yun because of such a small matter. Now, he had already provoked Su Yun. If there was anyone to blame, they could only blame the group of people who were the meat shield. They were all big and strong, but when it came to a fight, they were all useless. They couldn't even take one hit from Legend. The meat shield was also useless. He was picked up by Su Yun and thrown out. Legend didn't know that the meat shield's bones were almost broken by Su Yun's throw. If it wasn't for the meat shield's elasticity, he wouldn't have been able to stand up again. At that moment, the meat shield had already slipped away when the police questioned the group of people who had been beaten up. When those guys who were beaten up were questioned by the police, they exaggerated a lot. They said that they had encountered the real Chinese kung fu, and that it was so magical that it was to the extent that it was so magical. These people were already exaggerating. Usually, they would exaggerate many times more. Naturally, they seized the opportunity to exaggerate. They described Su Yun and Lin Gu, the two Hua Xia Kung Fu, as Bruce Lee in the movie Fierce Dragon Crossing the River. They even described their fists as cannons that would blow up anyone who got hit. In any case, the police were only dubious about what these guys said. They were not interested in their confessions. The meat shield dragged his fat body and ran for 2 blocks before dialing a number to ask for a friend to pick him up. He couldn't take a taxi because he was too heavy. Ordinary taxis couldn't fit him. Most taxi drivers took a detour when they saw him. He had never successfully hitched a ride because no private car owner would want his own car to be crushed. This might be an exaggeration, but the body of the meat shield was truly terrifying. About 20 minutes later, a black Ford Raptor pickup truck appeared in front of the meat shield. The meat shield quickly opened the door and got in. "Hey, my brother, what happened to you?" The black man who drove the car was nicknamed Spotted Dog because he had leukoplakia, which was also commonly known as white Dianfeng. It was a special disease where the melanin cells in the skin were destroyed, resulting in irregular white patches on the skin. It might not be a big deal for Caucasians to have this disease. After all, there wasn't much of a contrast in skin color, so it wasn't obvious. Black people with this disease were especially obvious. The contrast was too strong and stimulating. So Dalmatian's nickname was called, but Dalmatian himself didn't care about the nickname, as long as no one called him Black Ghost or other racist words. He didn't care about being called a Dalmatian at all. Anyway, he originally looked like a Labrador. "I've run into some trouble." The meat shield saw a cigar in the car's storage compartment. He took it out and lit it up. "Brother, this cigar of mine isn't easy to get," Spotted Dog said with some heartache. The meat shield ignored him because his car exploded. There was still a box of high-grade cigars in the car. "How can I help you?" Spotted Dog saw that the meat shield was in a bad mood, so he didn't continue to talk about his cigar. The meat shield rubbed his back that was starting to ache. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. "Two Huaxia people who know Kung Fu are controlling my boss." "Huaxia people who know Kung Fu? Is it really that kind of Kung Fu?" Spotted Dog said and mimicked Xiaolong's classic punching and wiping nose action. "Ada. Ada." The meat shield wasn't in the mood to talk about Kung Fu. He nodded casually. "Yes." "Then isn't that incredible?" Spotted Dog laughed. He didn't believe in the existence of Super Hua Xia Kung Fu. He felt that the movies were all exaggerated. Whether it was Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, or even the future Hua Xia superstars, he felt that they were all exaggerated. The meat shield frowned. He knew that someone like Dalmatian wouldn't believe him. "Right, your boss, that Carlos, isn't he also a Hua Xia person? Doesn't he know some Hua Xia Kung Fu and escape by himself?" Spotted Dog said in a joking tone. "Enough. Shut your mouth." The meat shield couldn't take it anymore. "Take me to board right now." Spotted Dog's smile instantly disappeared. He shook his head with some fear. "Oh no. My brother, I think you must be crazy. Go to board? This is just a small matter. But if you go to board, then it won't be a small matter." "I told you to drive right now." The meat shield glared at Spotted Dog. No. Brother, listen to me. I think you should calm down. We really don't need to go to board. Let me help you analyze." Spotted Dog clearly didn't want to see this person. The tank furrowed his brows. "Did you lose money in Board's casino again?" Spotted Dog had no choice but to lower his head. "It's just a small amount of money. I can settle it quickly. Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow, I'll go help my brother do something. Then I'll get my commission. Once I get the money, I'll immediately return it to board. I warned you." The meat shield suddenly grabbed Spotted Dog's collar and pulled him in front of him. "Don't provoke Board. Don't gamble in his casino. You can't win money there. Don't get involved with Board over money. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death." "Oh. I'm sorry, my brother. I know. I just—" Madara himself did not know how to explain himself. His words were somewhat incoherent. "Fine, I did make a mistake. But I promise you, I will never make the same mistake again, I promise." "Really? You don't need to promise me. Damn it. Think about your family. If you want to live, then don't do such a stupid thing." The meat shield glared. Spotted Dog lowered his head. Although the meat shield had cursed him and wanted to hit him, he knew that it was because the meat shield saw him as a brother. If the meat shield didn't see him as a brother, he wouldn't have said those words to him. The meat shield didn't want him to get into trouble, so he warned him. The meat shield let go of Spotted Dog's collar and asked calmly, "How much did you borrow from him?" "How many days ago?" $10,000. Spotted Dog whispered, "I borrowed it 3 days ago. I said I'd return it within 3 days. But I haven't gotten the money yet. But I can get it tomorrow. I believe Board will accept it." The meat shield shook his head speechlessly. Spotted Dog was too naive. If he returned it tomorrow, it wouldn't be 10,000, but 30,000. Spotted Dog didn't know the rules of borrowing money from Board. Even if it was within 3 days, it wouldn't be 10,000. It would be double, 20,000. If it wasn't returned within 3 days, the first day it would be 30,000, the second day it would be 60,000, the third day it would be 120,000, the fourth day it would be 240,000, the fifth day it would be 480,000, and the sixth day it would be 960,000. If it wasn't returned within a week, even a millionaire would go bankrupt. "Take me to my house first." The meat shield didn't want his brother to have his family ruined. He decided to give him $20,000 to solve the problem. And after solving the problem, the meat shield could ask Board to help him solve his problem. In order to solve the problem of his boss being controlled, the meat shield didn't hesitate to spend a lot of money to ask Board for help. He had to save his money tree. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find such a good job in the future. So he decided to take a gamble and ask Board to solve the problem. He was one of the most powerful gangs in Los Angeles. Chapter 3795. Los Angeles sounded like a beautiful city. Everything here was perfect for those who had never been here. It was the most beautiful place on the west coast of the United States in many people's hearts. But for those who had a deep understanding of Los Angeles, those who lived at the bottom of Los Angeles was not a beautiful place in their eyes. To them, this city was the worst and most trashy place in California, or even the entire United States. Because Los Angeles was expensive, and because there were too many rich celebrities and huaxia, the housing prices were much more expensive than the average in the United States. Also, the environmental pollution and water pollution in this city were much worse than many other places in the United States. What was even more disgusting was that there were gangs everywhere. There were Mexican gangs in the south, African gangs in the west, and those in the Chinese district. There were also Vietnamese gangs, Asian gangs, and the Four Seas gang. Just Los Angeles alone had nearly 500 gangs. That's right, that many. Other than New York, Los Angeles was probably the city with the most gangs in the United States. Some hand gestures were taboo in Los Angeles. The gangs had their own hand gestures, and they could not be made blindly. Blindly making hand gestures was courting death. If they were unlucky, they would be killed by the gangs. Graffiti was also not to be messed with. It could be the division of territories between gangs. If an ignorant child were to make graffiti, it was very likely that he would be dead on the streets the next day. Nowadays, there was a lot of news about Chinese people in the United States. These news were especially related to deaths and robberies. A few days ago, a few Asian girls were killed in Los Angeles. It might be an unsolved case. There were also some incomprehensible news. A Chinese man stopped at a red light in the downtown area and was shot to death by someone in the car next to him. It was said that the person who shot him was a gang member. The murderer saw the Chinese man in the car make a hand gesture. Perhaps the Chinese man did not know what the hand gesture was, or perhaps he saw wrongly. Then, the person asked a gang conversation. For example, the gang member asked, "The Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger." In the end, the Chinese man was confused and did not know how to answer. Or he answered wrongly. He did not say that the pagoda was used to suppress the river monster. Then he would be killed. He died tragically because of one sentence. Those who lived in Los Angeles should have an impression that the news on the front page of the World Daily News was not about the attention-grabbing domestic scandals. Instead, it was about how to survive in Monty State Park. For example, don't look at people casually, don't make gestures casually, don't talk casually, and don't walk casually. To put it more seriously, if you accidentally walk into the headquarters of a certain gang, you won't be able to get out. Moreover, the day and night in Los Angeles were two different worlds. Perhaps only 4 o'clock in the morning was an inspirational time with positive energy. Only the fans would understand. The daytime in Los Angeles was brash and aggressive, while the nighttime in Los Angeles was frightening. The downtown area of Los Angeles had the highest crime rate, which was the exact opposite of Huaxia. The downtown area had the highest homicide rate, and many people did not go to the downtown area during the day. Moreover, in this city, single women ranging from 15 to 16 years old to 50 to 60 years old would not go out alone after dark, let alone go to the city. Otherwise, there would be a naked corpse in a trash can on the street the next day. This was definitely not an exaggeration. This place was comparable to New York's Flushing. The person that the meat shield was looking for, Board, was the boss of the local American gang. These people often appeared near the Los Angeles River. The gang was very prestigious in the whole of California. From Bakersfield to the border of the United States, their people were everywhere. It could be said that this was one of the cities in the United States where gangs were rampant. Board's gang could be said to be one of the most notorious evil forces. To be honest, it was because of these people that the gang culture became one of the cultures of the West Coast. Hundreds of gangs in this city were fighting fiercely. Just thinking about it made one's scalp tingle, right? These Latin American gangs could even be said to be slaughtering people like dogs. Sometimes, when they ran into each other for no reason, they would casually kill people they did not like. This was some of the bad habits that were brought over from Mexico. That was because the gangs in Mexico were really ruthless. You could not go to a city with gangs. Otherwise, you would die for nothing. Therefore, the Latin American gangs in the United States were not weak. There were really too many people who sold their fans. If you did not live in a high-end neighborhood, you must be careful to avoid these guys. If there were people who collected money, most people would choose to pay up obediently. Because even if these guys opened fire and killed people, as long as they ran to Mexico, nothing would happen. The United States was indeed a paradise for the rich. However, for the poor at the bottom, it was also hell. There were many gangs in the places where the poor lived in Los Angeles. Once you offended those people, it meant that you were in big trouble. In fact, the moral standards of the low-level police in the United States were really average. Do not put your hopes on them. They did not earn much and would not risk being shot to do something heroic. In fact, the Chinese gangs here were also very evil. Although they were wearing the skin of Huaxia, they were definitely ruthless when dealing with Huaxia. They definitely had no intention of taking care of their fellow countrymen. Ordinary Chinese people in the United States also knew that gangs formed by Chinese people were also very scary organizations. If you were to settle down in this city, you should try not to live in a Chinese neighborhood. It was best to live in a rich neighborhood or live in a neighborhood with some white people who worked a normal job. A place full of Chinese people was also quite dangerous. Here, it was not some Huaxia. It was because there were some organizations formed by Huaxia who went abroad in the early years. They accumulated a lot of power and bullied Huaxia people who did not have status. They specifically collected protection fees from Huaxia people and gave them high interest. Because the people who were bullied were usually unregistered, no one called the police. Some Huaxia gangs formed by Chinese people targeted peddlers. They used all kinds of methods to break into houses, rob, kidnap, and threaten to extort money from them. Some gangsters even took advantage of the Huaxia people's mentality of going abroad to make a fortune. They organized a large group to go abroad and collect huge profits. These people only knew the truth when they arrived. It was too late for regrets. The men did illegal work, and the women became prostitutes who sold their bodies. They could not speak of their suffering. Some Huaxia bosses even hired Huaxia students to do illegal work or overtime work, oppressing them in a disguised way. Some employers chased them away after they finished their work in the name of trial work. Some employers picked dirty and tiring jobs for them to do, and they worked overtime as they pleased. There was no pay raise. If they did not work, they would not be paid a single cent and would leave. Some Huaxia nannies worked in other Huaxia families. Each family had different ways of dealing with nannies. Some families did not allow the nannies to use the washing machine and insisted that the nannies wash the whole family's clothes by hand. Some families made the nannies cook fish and meat for the whole family, but made the nannies eat pickled vegetables and plain water as rice. Some families framed the nannies, saying that they stole things and were secretly helping others. To put it bluntly, the most ruthless people who dealt with Huaxia people were often these Huaxia people. Even if they were not gangsters, they would use all kinds of flowery words to deceive Huaxia people. As long as you believed their nonsense, you would definitely regret it for the rest of your life. Of course, not all Huaxia people were bad people. There were also many good people who would help Huaxia people. It was just that it was too difficult to distinguish the motives of these people these days. Therefore, Huaxia people who went out should be as careful as possible. Board's Latin American gang was a notorious organization. The Meat Shield wanted to find him so that he could take down the two people who were controlling his boss in one fell swoop. As long as he could take down these two people, his mission would be complete. Even if Board asked for a lot of US dollars, the Meat Shield believed that his boss would be willing to fork out the money. Because his life was very, very valuable. At this time, the Meat Shield did not know that his Huaxia boss was already a penniless pauper. All of his assets would be sold off and confiscated. All of them would be returned to the country by Su Yun. Because this money was originally taken out by vampires like Legend Mountain who used all kinds of underhanded methods to exploit loopholes. This money could not be left overseas to be squandered by people like Legend Mountain. What a pity! One had to know that even the most basic medical insurance had not been popularized in China yet. Chapter 3796. Dalmatian drove the car and quickly found Bird's location. This was a nightclub controlled by Asians. Bird and his men would drink here every day. These people spent their days in a drunken stupor. Therefore, when night came, they would be at their happiest. After Dalmatian stopped the car, the fear on his face could no longer be concealed. How about, we don't go? Since you dared to borrow money from him, you should know what you will face, the meat tank said. You will have to return this money sooner or later. At the very least, today is still a few hours away from the 3-day deadline. Since you know to be afraid, you should not have any financial disputes with Bird. I know. Dalmatian lowered his head. The meat tank took out an envelope containing $20,000 and slapped it on Dalmatian's chest. Damn it, you better remember this lesson. There will never be a second time. Next time, I will definitely not help you. Thank you, my brother. I will definitely not make this kind of mistake again. Dalmatian nodded. I promise you, I swear to God. When I finish my work tomorrow and get my commission, I will return the money to you. Trust me. Don't talk nonsense. Get out of the car. The meat tank opened the car door and jumped out. Dalmatian followed after him. At the entrance of the nightclub, a burly Asian American youth walked forward. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. He reached out his hand and high-fived the meat tank. "Hey, brother, what are you doing here?" When he saw Dalmatian behind the meat tank, he whistled. "Our boss thought you wouldn't come today." Dalmatian waved the envelope in his hand and shrugged. "Sorry to disappoint you. Did the goddess of luck descend upon you?" The Asian American youth laughed and gestured to welcome their visit. "Boss Bird is waiting for you. Fortunately, you came in time." After saying this, the Asian American youth waved the worthless watch on his wrist. This was to tell Dalmatian that once it was past 12, he would be in big trouble. The spotted dog swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Fortunately, he had a meat shield to help him this time. Otherwise, he really didn't know how to explain it to Board. The two of them walked into the bar filled with gang members. The bar was filled with curses and insults. These people did not seem to have much patience. One second they were friends, and the next second they could turn hostile and start a fight because of a single sentence. The tank was no stranger to this chaotic atmosphere. He started looking for Board as soon as he entered the arena. When he found where Board was, he squeezed his way forward. Because the meat shield was too fat, he could only squeeze his way through. The people who were squeezed by him had different reactions. Some of them didn't feel it at all, some of them didn't care even if they felt it, and some of them impatiently turned their heads to glare at him. When they saw that he was a meat shield, they grinned, revealing their white teeth, and laughed it off. Of course, there were also people who turned around and scolded, "Damn fatty. Do you want to die? If you think you have the ability, then give it a try." The meat shield wasn't afraid at all. He knew these people's tempers too well. If he tolerated them the first time, they would never treat him as a human again. Even if they fought because of a quarrel, he couldn't back down. Even if he lost, they would at least respect him in the future. If he won, they would fear him even more. If he backed down in a quarrel, they would look down on him for the rest of his life. "Don't think that I'll be afraid of you just because others are afraid of you." The opponent was still yelling at the meat shield. The meat shield grabbed the opponent's throat. The opponent wanted to use the same method against the meat shield, but the meat shield's neck was too thick. He couldn't choke him. Moreover, the meat shield was very strong. With a sudden burst of strength, he pressed the opponent to the ground. It would be a very painful thing for anyone to be pinned down by a 150 kilograms fatty. "If you're crazy, then tell me. I can help you clear your head," the meat shield said fiercely. "I'll smash it with my fists. Let it breathe." "Oh, no. Meat shield, you won't do that. Let me up, I can't breathe." "Oh, brother. I'm sorry for what I did just now." The opponent was pressed down so hard that he couldn't breathe. Even speaking took some effort. At this time, the meat shield got up and continued to walk forward. Behind the meat shield, Spotted Dog was already drenched in cold sweat. Fortunately, the meat shield had come with him. Otherwise, he would have been bullied to death before he could reach Board's side. Although the meat shield had passed by, the man on the ground still wanted to cause trouble for Spotted Dog. Although Spotted Dog had already passed by him, he still reached out and grabbed Spotted Dog's shoulder. "Little Spotted Dog, I told him to pass, but I didn't tell you to pass, right?" Clearly, this guy had bullied Spotted Dog before, and Spotted Dog had admitted defeat. Thus, he no longer treated Spotted Dog as a human and wanted to bully him whenever he saw him. "If you don't want Board to chop off your hand, then let go of Spotted Dog." The meat shield didn't even turn his head as he roared. "He's here to pay Board back. You better not waste his time. Otherwise, I'll tell Board." Only after hearing the meat shield's words did the fellow loosen his grip. Spotted Dog followed the meat shield closely, not daring to take a single step away. With great difficulty, the meat shield brought Spotted Dog to Board's side. Board was hugging two women on his left and right as he chatted with one of his trusted subordinates. "Hey, Meat Shield, my good brother, why have you come to a place like this?" "Ha ha ha, shouldn't you be accompanying your little Chinese boss to high-class places?" Board was a mixed-blood oiler. His skin was dark and shiny, and there was a very glaring wound on his face. It had been left behind by a bullet. Just how lucky was this fellow? Just by looking at the wound left behind by the bullet, one could tell that he hadn't been killed even after being aimed at the head. "Board, I've come to talk business with you." After the meat shield finished speaking, Spotted Dog stuck his head out from behind him. Spotted Dog cautiously called out, "Boss Board." When Board saw Spotted Dog, he immediately glared and slapped the table. Board's trusted subordinate immediately jumped up and pressed Spotted Dog's head down onto the table. "If you want to tell me that the money still needs time, then I'm sorry," Board said coldly. "No one can disobey my rules. If you want to borrow money from me, then you have to follow my rules. I won't warn you a second time." Spotted Dog was so scared by Board that he didn't dare say a word. His entire body was trembling. "You've already brought the money, so just tell Board." The meat shield roared from the side. "If you don't say it, no one will know that you're here to return the money." After being roared at by the meat shield, Board's subordinate immediately pulled Spotted Dog up and punched him in the ribs. "Where's the money?" Trembling, Spotted Dog handed over the envelope. Board's subordinate snatched the envelope away and opened the seal. After seeing that it was thick enough, he let go of Spotted Dog. Frightened, Spotted Dog hurriedly hid behind the meat shield. Spotted Dog was a typical street thug from the American Empire. Normally, he would give a damn to law-abiding citizens, but in front of a real gang, he didn't even dare to let out a fart. Board called Spotted Dog a trash can that made people want to vomit at the sight of it. "If you're here to return the money, then you can do it yourself. There's no need for my brother, the meat shield, to accompany you." Board laughed. Although the meat shield wasn't part of the gang, he had a certain amount of fame, and was someone who was respected. Spotted Dog nodded repeatedly. "I like people who keep their promises. So, in the future, if you come to my place to borrow money, my people will lend it to you without hesitation." "That's right, without hesitation." Board's laughter was very bright. "Board, I didn't come here to accompany Spotted Dog to return the money," the meat shield explained. "Of course, Spotted Dog is my brother. If possible, I hope that your brothers can be a little more courteous to him in the future. Take it as giving me face." Board narrowed his eyes. "So you're saying that you came here to fight for your brother's face?" Without waiting for the meat shield to speak to Spotted Dog, Board paused for a moment before continuing, "Because I know Spotted Dog is your brother. Me and my brother are already giving you face by treating him like this. Otherwise, a trash can like him? What do you think will happen to him? Meat shield, it's not like you don't know. Face is something you fight for, not something you rely on others for charity." Chapter 3797. Dalmatian knew that he was weak, but in front of the vicious Board, he didn't dare say anything. The meat shield pulled Dalmatian in front of him. "Board, he's already returned the money to you. I hope you won't have any financial disputes with him in the future. If you really want to give me face, then remember what I said, okay? I didn't think you cared so much about your friend." Board laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha ha. What I said just now was just a joke." After saying this, Board went up and grabbed Dalmatian. He suddenly grabbed a beer bottle and smashed it on the table. He shouted to the people in the bar, "All of you, listen up. In the future, be smart. Dalmatian is our friend. Understand? If anyone doesn't know what's good for them and the meat shield comes looking for trouble, I won't interfere." Board's words were respectful, but only those who thought highly of the meat shield would listen to him. If they didn't care about the meat shield's face, they wouldn't care who Dalmatian was. If Dalmatian made them unhappy, they wouldn't be polite to him. "Board, remember, Dalmatian is my brother, not just a friend." After Board did this, the meat shield said with a serious expression, "I know, of course I know." Board laughed. "Just like us, we're not just friends, we're brothers too. Don't you think so?" The meat shield wanted to say no. His relationship with Dalmatian wasn't that simple. He and Dalmatian grew up in the slums. When they were young, the meat shield was often bullied because he was too fat. Even when he went to steal food to fill his stomach, he was caught and beaten because he couldn't run fast enough. From then on, Dalmatian would bring some food for the meat shield every time he went to steal food. So from then on, the meat shield had a different kind of friendship for Dalmatian. This was a true brotherhood. When the meat shield had made some progress, he helped Dalmatian in many ways. This was how Dalmatian got to where he was today. Otherwise, with Dalmatian's petty thievery skills, he would probably still be living in the slums. Of course, we're brothers too. In a place like Los Angeles, he did not want to offend the Latin American gangsters. This group of people was definitely not to be trifled with. Once they were provoked, even a meat shield would not be able to get rid of this trouble. We're brothers, your brothers, so Dalmatian can also be my brother. Board grinned and suddenly shook the envelope. Although we're brothers, I still have to take the money that I should. Not a cent less. This is my principle, my rule. Of course, the tank knew that he would say that. We won't break your rules. As a brother, what would you like to drink? Count it on me. Board laughed loudly. At this time, Dalmatian was so scared that he was about to piss his pants. Board was the one who wanted them to drink the wine, so they had no choice but to drink it. If they drank it, they would be good brothers. If they didn't drink it, they wouldn't be giving him face. Actually, this situation was similar to those people in Huaxia who played around in the underworld. They were all unreasonable people who treated alcohol as something that couldn't be shared. They didn't know that once something happened, the people who would really help were usually those who would persuade them to drink less. Those who liked to force alcohol were the ones who would stab them in the back or trip them up. Those with a bit of social experience knew that one should not make friends with wine and meat. This logic couldn't be any simpler. The tank poured a full glass of whiskey for Dalmatian. Fortunately, Dalmatian was quite good at drinking, so the tank wasn't worried. Thank you, Boss Board. Dalmatian understood the tank's meaning. He raised the glass and drank it in one gulp. The spiciness passed through his intestines. He had cut off all ties with Board. Although the tank had always been in contact with the gangsters in Los Angeles, he wasn't a gangster. He had a glamorous and high-paying job. This was what made him different from the gangsters. As for his brother Dalmatian, the tank didn't want him to become a gangster. Those who mixed with gangsters would never have a good ending. Anyone. The tank also poured himself a glass of whiskey. Board, I think we should talk about our matters. Board nodded and raised his glass to the tank. Say it, my brother. What can I help you with? Just tell me. $100,000. The tank said, you just need to let your brother save Mr. Carlos from 2 Huaxia people and you'll get $100,000. Carlos. Board was stunned. His subordinate beside him whispered something in his ear. Board then understood. Oh, so it's your Chinese boss. The tank didn't say anything. Board looked at the tank in confusion. My brother, your Chinese boss was kidnapped by 2 Huaxia people? Was it done by those damn Chinese gangs? Who? 4 Seas Gang? 5 Lakes Gang? Or was it done by the Longhu Gang? The tank shook his head. No, this has nothing to do with the Chinese gangs. It's just 2 Huaxia people. Oh brother, now that you put it that way, I don't understand, Board said. Just 2 Huaxia people without any gang background? They kidnapped your boss and you asked me to help you solve it? Is there a problem? The tank asked with a shrug. Board nodded. Of course there is a problem. It's a very serious problem. What problem? The tank asked. 2 Huaxia people. They're nothing to be afraid of, Board said in disdain. Would you come to me and ask me to help you solve such a D***MN problem? And you even offered $100,000? The tank nodded. That's right. It's just 2 Huaxia people. But there's one thing, Board. Huaxia people aren't little ants. If they were, the Huaxia people wouldn't be controlled by Chinese gangs. You can't interfere even if you want to. Board's expression turned ugly. Board knew very well what the meat shield meant because he had suffered at the hands of the Chinese gang before. Although the Japanese gangs were cruel and merciless, the Chinese gangs weren't easy to deal with either, and they were ruthless enough to deal with them. Board and his Hua Xia gang had clashed with the Chinese gangs 4 or 5 times. They didn't get the upper hand in any of them. There was even one time where they suffered a huge loss. Of course, this was something Board refused to admit. He didn't admit that he'd lost to the Hua Xia people because he looked down on them. He felt that they were weak. So when these weak people defeated him, he was very, very annoyed. This annoyance couldn't be described with words. "I'm sorry, brother. I might have said something I shouldn't have," the tank said apologetically. "But I'm just stating the truth. These Hua Xia people are much harder to deal with than we thought. All of us have to admit this. Don't you think so?" Board wanted to say something but stopped. Spotted Dog looked at Board nervously. He was afraid that the meat shield's words would make Board turn hostile. After all, this was Board's territory. If Board turned hostile, the two of them would definitely die here. No matter how good the meat shield was at fighting, he wouldn't be a match for so many people. The tank knew that Board needed time to think, so he took a sip of whiskey and waited for Board's reply. Board was silent for about half a minute. Then he slowly opened his mouth. "I heard that your Chinese boss is a super rich man living in Beverly Hills. He drives luxury cars worth millions. Now, for his life, you're only willing to pay $100,000? Faced with Board's question, the tank fell silent. He knew that Board was a hungry wolf. $100,000 was a lot, but this guy's expression was so disdainful. "Board, it's just 2 Hua Xia people," the tank said. "You have so many men and so many guns. You don't need to spend much effort to deal with this. Is $100,000 not enough?" Chapter 3798. From the meat shield's point of view, he only needed 10 or 20 people to surround the kidnappers with guns. After all, they were gangsters and could intimidate the kidnappers. "My brother, you know that I have so many people to feed." Board smiled. "For this matter, I can send a lot of people. But your $100,000 isn't enough for me to send enough people. The Chinese all know martial arts." "Oh no. It's not as exaggerated as you think. Not all Hua Xia people know Kung Fu." The meat shield shook his head and denied it. Board laughed coldly. "But if 2 Hua Xia people who don't know Kung Fu kidnapped your boss, you wouldn't have come to me. With your skills, a gun would be enough for you to solve the problem. How can you stand in front of me and say this?" The meat shield didn't know how to explain himself in the face of Board's questioning. "Looks like I was right," Board continued. "I knew it wasn't that simple." "Board, I'm here to talk about cooperation, not to waste my time," the meat shield said. "Actually, many gangs can solve this problem." Board frowned. He felt that the meat shield's words were meant to knock him down, and the meat shield was indeed trying to knock him down. He was telling him not to be too arrogant. The meat shield wanted Board to realize that his gang wasn't the only gang in Los Angeles. There were many other gangs. $100,000 was a lot of money that many gangs wanted to earn. Of course, any gang leader who wanted to control drugs or gambling didn't care about $100,000. But if he let his subordinates do this and let his subordinates earn it, it would undoubtedly strengthen the position of the gang leader. This was what Board valued. Board wanted this and wanted his subordinates to earn this money. Board had heard some things about his subordinates. There were actually people who went to the trash at night to steal from homeless people. They wouldn't even let go of $1. This made Board feel embarrassed. "Then why did you find me?" Board asked. "Or did you find other gangs but were rejected? That's why you thought of me?" At this point, Board no longer called the tank his brother. The tank shook his head. "Oh no, of course not. I came to you because of our relationship. You're my friend, my brother. Board, don't think too much. You've always been important to me." Board smiled when he heard this. "Is that so?" "Yes." The meat shield nodded. You know that I'm always on your side if it's something that benefits you. I hope you can trust me, Board. $100,000 isn't a small amount, it really is. 100,000 USD? Is that a lot for you? Although Board was touched by the meat shield's words, he didn't give up on money. It's not even that much for you. Let alone for a rich Chinese who can afford to hire you. The tank took a deep breath and asked, "How much do you want?" Bird held up a finger. The meat shield widened his eyes and looked at Board in disbelief. "Oh no, brother, aren't you going too far? $1 million? Are you kidding me? He's only being controlled by 2 Xia people. There are only 2 of them. You don't need to gather your brothers to fight. There won't be any casualties. There won't be. $1 million isn't a lot." Board interrupted the meat shield. "You and I both know how these super-rich Chinese people get their money." The tank was stunned. "This money isn't clean at all. It's easy and simple to get. That's why these Chinese people can squander their money on our land." Board said, $1 million isn't a lot for me. Brother, you're not the one paying for it. You don't have to care." The tank was silent. Indeed, $1 million was nothing to his boss. "I know you're his personal bodyguard, but you have to remember that you're just his personal bodyguard," Board said. "You don't have the obligation to help him save money. You have to think about his safety, not how much money to spend." The tank looked up. He wanted to say something but didn't. "As long as you agree to the money, I can guarantee that your boss can stand by your side safely," Board said. "As a personal bodyguard, your job is done." "Okay." The tank nodded. "But I have to make one thing clear. I'm asking for $100,000. If you want $1 million, you'll have to wait until you save him and ask for it from my boss. I believe that if you can make him happy, he'll be willing to give you $1 million. Board laughed. "Brother, I'm a gangster, not a circus clown. I don't have the means to make people happy." At this point, Board paused for a moment. His expression turned sinister and his voice sharpened. "I have my ways to make him give me money. I'll tell him that if I can save him, I can kill him as well." "I'm not a philanthropist," Board said. "Brother, you have to remember that I'm a gangster. I only do things for the right price." The tank swallowed his saliva. He was already regretting coming to look for Board. He wasn't sure if Board would only ask for $1 million after this matter was settled. The meat shield was worried that this guy would raise the price, so it was possible that he would ask for $10 million directly. After all, Board would be the one in control. They would have to listen to him. If the meat shield pushed his boss from one fire pit to another, perhaps his boss would fire him as well. This was a gamble for the meat shield. Actually, the tank was overthinking. Legend wouldn't care even if it was $100 million. After all, Su Yun and Lin Guo wanted his everything. Compared to everything Legend had in the United States, $10 million was nothing. Legend only hoped that he could be saved. He hoped that someone could kill Su Yun and Lin Guo. Only by killing them could Legend hide in the United States and cut off all ties with Xia. After that, he could live a peaceful life in the United States. Everything he had in the United States was enough for him to live a carefree life for a few lifetimes. That was why he didn't care about this small amount of money. "I hope you can do what you say," the tank said. The meat shield said, "Board, you know that I trust you a lot. I don't think you'll disappoint me. I didn't look for any other gang. The first person I thought of was you because I think you're trustworthy. Don't worry, my brother. I'll let you know that you didn't make the wrong choice." Board nodded. "I won't let you down. I definitely won't." The tank gulped. Did he have any other choice? Of course not. When the tank stood in front of Board and said this, he didn't have any other choice. Board was a mad dog. He wouldn't let the bone in his mouth be taken away by another mad dog. Definitely not. "My brother, I think we should have a drink for our cooperation." Board poured wine for himself and the tank. Then, He stood up and shouted a few more times to make everyone quiet down. Hey! 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 Quiet down! Shut up! I have a piece of good news to announce to everyone. I want to tell you. Today, my brother, the tank, came to me to give you a chance to make money. Board smiled. A chance to make $1 million. Everyone's attention was attracted by the mention of $1 million. There were indeed many rich gangsters in the United States. But the real rich ones were at the top of the pyramid. Those at the bottom wouldn't have much money. So, let's raise our glasses. To the tank. Board said. Every one of you should thank him. Thank him for thinking of us when he had such a simple and easy opportunity to make money. After drinking this glass, we can get ready to work and make money. To the tank. Everyone cheered as they raised their glasses and downed them. Chapter 3799. Since the meat shield brought them benefits, they would naturally elevate the meat shield to a high position. Board looked at the meat shield with a smile. He had already done this and exposed the amount of money to everyone. If the meat shield or his Chinese boss didn't want to pay, these people would definitely not let them go. The meat shield took a deep breath. This was the price of doing business with the Chinese gangs. From the looks of it, this price was already very high. However, to the meat shield, this price was quite high. It wasn't just what it looked like now. He still had to deal with a lot of messy matters and spend a lot of money before he could completely understand the relationship between them and Board. To put it bluntly, if it weren't for the fact that Su Yun and Lin Guo were too strong, the meat shield wouldn't have thought of asking them to solve the problem. Since we've had this drink, let's go. Let's not waste any more time, the meat shield said. I need to solve this problem as soon as possible. Of course. Tell us where they are and I'll bring people over immediately. Board smiled and said to the meat shield, if you still don't know where they are and need me to help you find them, you should pay our brothers more for gas. The meat shield shook his head. No need. I already know where they are. Before coming here, the meat shield had already informed his brothers to go to all the places where legendaries could possibly appear and see if the silver Bentley had appeared. As long as the car appeared, it meant that the two guys were there. Although the meat shield still didn't know why they kidnapped his boss, he was certain that the two guys definitely didn't kidnap him with the intention to kill. In the meat shield's world, everyone kidnapped rich people for the same reason: money. Money could make people lose their minds. These people kidnapped rich people for money. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any difference who they kidnapped. While the meat shield was discussing with Board, one of his men replied to his message and told him a piece of good news. The car that the meat shield was looking for had appeared in Beverly Hills. The meat shield understood what was going on. Two crazy Chinese people had kidnapped his boss and brought them to his house. Where are they? Board asked. It's in my boss's house, Beverly Hills, the tank said calmly. Board widened his eyes and said, these Chinese are really crazy. This is the first time I've heard of kidnappers bringing people to the kidnapper's house. Ha ha ha. Isn't this giving everyone a chance to catch a turtle in a jar? There's one more thing I don't understand. Since the other party has already broken in and you know where they are, why didn't you call the police? The tank glanced at Board. If you know my boss, you wouldn't ask such a question. Oh. Board was stunned. My boss won't just let the kidnappers be punished by the police. That's meaningless to him. The meat shield said, my boss likes to personally punish those who offend him. I've been with him for more than 3 years, so I know him better than you do. Board laughed out loud again. Ha ha ha, the Huaxia people are really vengeful. The Huaxia people are really vengeful? Ha ha. Don't tell me you don't have a vengeful heart, Boss Board. At the very least, I don't think anyone I know is as vengeful as you are, the tank said calmly. That's because you know me well enough to think so. Board smiled. Why would I think so? Because I'm much more powerful than those Huaxia people. Don't you think so? Ha 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 ha. The tank laughed out loud. The Legend's house in Beverly Hills was really high-tech. Lin Gu couldn't help but admire this. Rich Americans really knew how to enjoy life. You really know how to enjoy life. Lin Gu smiled as he picked up an iPad from the sofa. This kind of electronic device could be seen everywhere in the legend's house. Not many people in the country could afford to buy more than 10 tablets at the same time. There were tablets in every room, so people could pick them up whenever they wanted to. In fact, many ordinary Americans weren't even as rich as the Huaxia people. Their middle school students had a much harder time buying an iPad than the Huaxia middle school students. The price they paid for an iPad was to help their families mow the lawn for a month or do a lot of housework. The Huaxia middle school students only needed to say one sentence to buy an iPad. The teacher said to buy one for studying. Therefore, someone like the legend who bought more than 10 Apple products at once was definitely the weirdest of weirdos in the United States. What are you reading? Monster Soldier King story. Oh, it's about the Special Forces. Not bad. I didn't expect you to have such good taste in novels. Lin Gu held the tablet in his hand and asked, "Where did you read this? Did you read it on 17K? No, this was posted by Pen Spirit on Sleepwalking's WeChat account, the legend said. WeChat account? How did you find it? Lin Gu was interested in the novel as well. Take out your phone and I'll add you. Open WeChat first. Yes, click on the Add Friend symbol on the top right corner. Okay, click on the Add Friend button. Click on the WeChat button when you're logged in. Yes, here it is. Type in QQ276432835 or Pen Spirit is Sleepwalking and click on Search. You found it, right? That's it. Just add me as a follower. You can reply, Pen Spirit is the most handsome in Sleepwalking, and see the latest updates and extras. You're quite funny. You know things I don't know. Lin Gu glanced at the legend. The Legend of Legendary smiled. I love this novel so much. Oh, right. When you read the chapters, look at the Alipay password at the bottom. Go to the Alipay password red packet and enter the password to get the red packet from the author. You're so rich and you still care about that. Lin Gu glanced at the legend with disdain. It feels different. It's from the author. It's a blessing to get it, the legend said. Have you ever tipped the author? Lin Gu said. If you're so rich and you don't tip him, then you're not being nice. He wrote a novel of 10 million words and gave the original version to poor online literature fans for free. That's very meaningful. He's sacrificing his own profits to fight against piracy. Everyone will have the habit of reading the original version for free. It's a good habit for all readers and brings more profits to the author. He can lose an entire house in Wuhan with just one book. You should at least do something, right? Those poor readers have already expressed their gratitude. Even if some of them only gave 3 or 5 yuan, it's still a sign of friendship. You're so rich and you're not even willing to tip him? The legend's face turned red. Su Yun said, he's not rich now. Every penny he has doesn't belong to him anymore. The author is giving it out of his own free will. Don't force him to tip just because he's rich. That's moral blackmail. Lin Gu chuckled. I just don't like him. I don't like it either. Su Yun said, but now's not the time to talk about the novel. I need to know all your heirlooms in the United States. Did you hear that? Lin Gu glared at the legend. Didn't you say you'd find out on the computer at home? Go and sort it out now. We're about to see it. I need time, the legend said. I can't just take it out. I need time to sort it out. Then let's go. Su Yun's voice was tinged with anger. The legend hurried to the study. Lin Gu told him, take the computer and do it in the living room. It's right in front of us. Don't try anything funny. I know. The legend nodded. He could only do as Su Yun and Lin Gu said. Lin Gu strolled to the side of the bar and saw that the wine cabinet was filled with good wine. There was also a cigar rack with many high-end cigar boxes. Inside the cigar boxes were high-end handmade cigars. Bro, this guy is really extravagant. Look at these cigars. Lin Gu sighed and picked up a big box. I think this box with dozens of cigars must be cheap. Su Yun took a look and shook his head. Behike cigars from Cuba. They're sold in a box of 40 cigars. One cigar costs about $500. Chapter 3800. 1. Lin Gu looked at Su Yun. Bro, are you sure it's one? Not one box? Su Yun nodded. As far as I know, Behike cigars only started production in the year 2004. Only 100 boxes are produced a year. $20,000 per box isn't too expensive. The orders for these cigars seem to have exploded. That's so popular. Luckily, there aren't many corrupt officials in Huaxia who are interested in cigars. If there were, the world's best cigars probably wouldn't be able to go anywhere else. Lin Gu laughed and took out a cigar to sniff. Many politicians order these cigars through the Cuban government. Every year, all the orders are sold instantly. After reselling, the price basically reaches $40,000 per box. I estimate that within 2 years, the price will double to $80,000 per box, Su Yun said. What you're telling me is the cheapest government purchase price. Lin Gu said in surprise, then I'll really have to try it. Su Yun, you don't know anything about cigars, so don't waste them. These can all be sold for money. They're already national property. Lin Gu shook his head helplessly. Bro, you're being a little too harsh. You don't have to go that far. Why not? Su Yun said. Then I'll try the one next to it. Lin Gu put down the box of expensive cigars and picked up the box next to it. Su Yun looked at it. This looks like a cigar chain cigar. Open it and take a look. Lin Gu opened the box. There were 10 cigars. He was shocked. Oh my God, this cigar is studded with diamonds? F***CK. Is this smoking or burning money? The Diamond Crush cigar was like a snake coiling around the entire cigar. If it's just based on the value of the cigar in your hand is the most expensive cigar in the world. Su Yun said, I've heard that although there are only 10 cigars in a box, it costs 50,000 euros per box. This box of cigars is close to 500,000 renminbi? Lin Gu thought about it and put it down. Damn, it's a good thing I didn't smoke. This cigar is probably equivalent to a town secretary's annual salary, right? Who are you scolding? The town secretary only gets 50,000 yuan a year, Su Yun said. Lin Gu said in all seriousness, that's how it is. At least that's all the country can give. If they can get more, it's their ability. Su Yun coldly snorted. That's right, this cigarette was equivalent to a town party secretary's salary for a year. However, in Huaxia, how many town party secretaries could easily afford to smoke a cigar of this level? The central government is constantly killing tigers and slapping flies. All kinds of tigers and flies are half dead. This is indeed a good thing. There's no one who doesn't applaud. But those tigers are after all legendary characters. The commoners can't see them. What the commoners can see clearly are the leaders around them. The higher the sky is, the more distant the emperor is, the more they should be disciplined. Even if you kill tigers and flies, don't let the maggots go. Brother, look, there's even a gem on the top of this cigarette box. You're very knowledgeable. What kind of cigarettes are these? Lin Gu picked up a box of sparkling silver cigarettes. Yes, ordinary cigarettes, not cigars. The packaging of the cigar box is made of platinum. There's a diamond and a ruby inlaid on it. Good color. Su Yun said indifferently, the oldest cigarette company in the world. The tobacco is made using the best quality tobacco leaves in the American Empire. It's made in the traditional American way. I just want to know how much this thing is worth. Lin Gu said, when I came to his house, my normal worldview was turned upside down. Damn it. Expensive packaging, plus the world's top tobacco leaves. How much do you think it's worth? Su Yun smiled. Lin Gu grinned and said, "It can't be more expensive than that diamond cigar, right?" Su Yun nodded. "It seems a bit expensive. $100,000 per box. Holy *T. Smoking this cigarette is much better than smoking a Huaxia chief who was sentenced to death." Lin Gu said, "Actually, that guy did a good thing. At least Huaxia doesn't have cigarettes that cost more than 100 renminbi. Now, the leaders don't even throw cigarettes on the table when they're in meetings." Su Yun, "I think that idiot who smokes the emperor doesn't smoke the emperor every day. It's probably because there are a lot of people in the meeting, so he purposely threw the cigar on the table to show off his status. Actually, the leaders also have the thoughts and desire to show off." Lin Gu agreed with this. Those cousins all have the same mentality. If the watch in the leader's hand isn't worth a few 100,000 or a few 100,000, would he have the nerve to go out for a meeting? His colleagues will definitely laugh at him. Now, each one is more low-key than the last. Su Yun, let's not talk about watches. Cars, suits, they won't be too good. I'm just afraid of the people's bright eyes. No wonder a lot of people say that in Yanjing, you can look down on people who drive Audi A8s, but never provoke people who drive Audi A6s, Lin Gu mocked. Su Yun waved his hand at him. "Don't touch those cigarettes. Arrange for someone to deal with them. We'll have to sell them in the end. After you told me the price, I really don't dare to smoke. Even the cheapest one is $500. I really don't have the luck to try it." Lin Gu shook his head. "That's not necessarily the case. There are cheaper ones down there. $300 each. Su Yun, but you don't know how to smoke. It would be a pity to waste them." Lin Gu shrugged and picked up a half-open bottle of XO. He poured 2 glasses and brought them to Su Yun. A glass of alcohol was nothing. They wouldn't get drunk anyway. Now that Legend was in charge of all the work, it was rare for them to relax. Legend came back from the study with his laptop. Seeing that the two of them were drinking, he went to get a glass of his own. "You want some too?" Lin Gu asked. The legend of legendary warrior was stunned. Was he not allowed to drink his wine? This was his home, and this was his wine. Was he not even qualified to drink his wine now? "I know what you're thinking, but don't forget that nothing belongs to you anymore. Even this bottle is not yours." Lin Gu wasn't so stingy that he wouldn't give Legend a sip. He still poured a glass for him. Legend was sullen, but he couldn't say a word. "I'm telling you, don't treat this place as your home." Lin Gu reminded him. "And don't drink too much. If you're not clear-headed, nobody will help you. You can drink if you want, but you have to sort out what you need to do first." Legend nodded and said gingerly, "Got it. Then do your job properly." Lin Gu crossed his legs and continued to drink. This top-grade XO was indeed delicious. It smelled sweet and fragrant, and the soft and tender feeling was different from ordinary rotten wine. Although Su Yun and Lin Gu were drinking, they knew that they weren't in a safe situation. After all, they were in the United States. There was danger everywhere. Legend wouldn't give up just like that. However, this was a wealthy district. The security here was different from that of ordinary people in the city. It was also different from the more chaotic Chinese district and Black district. This place gave people a relatively safer feeling. Su Yun and Lin Gu looked relaxed, but that didn't mean that Legend himself was relaxed. Legend couldn't be efficient under pressure. That was why Su Yun and Lin Gu gave him enough space to deal with the things they needed. The relaxed environment calmed Legend down a lot. Although he still hoped that the meat shield would come to his rescue, he wasn't as nervous as before. Legend was sorting out the details of all his assets in Los Angeles while drinking his favorite XO. If it weren't for Su Yun and Lin Gu, he would have thought that he was in heaven. If he could get rid of Su Yun and Lin Gu, he would be able to live a heavenly life. Legend had already listed out the details of his family's investments in Los Angeles. All kinds of fixed assets, all kinds of certificates, and all kinds of liquid assets added up to a huge sum. His house alone was worth more than $10 million, which was close to 100 million yuan. Legend had 17 properties in Los Angeles. That's right, 17. They were all expensive mansions. The cheapest one was worth more than $6 million. Chapter 3801. The Meat Shield had already led Board and his men to a place not far from Beverly Hills. The gang members, who only had eyes for dollars, were all eager to rob the entire wealthy district. Fortunately, they didn't dare to do so. Although the crime rate in the American Empire was quite high, the gangs wouldn't easily cause trouble in the wealthy district that they couldn't handle. In the past 20 to 30 years, the crime rate in the American Empire had been decreasing. Of course, even so, the crime rate in the American Empire was considered high in the Western world. Naturally, it was higher than Hua Xia. Those who were familiar with the American Empire's prisons knew that there were millions of people in the American Empire's prisons. Based on the American Empire's population, it could be said that 1 out of every 10 people was in prison. This ratio was far beyond China's. Even so, Hua Xia people who lived in the wealthy districts of the American Empire still felt that the American Empire's social security was better than Hua Xia's. Most of the time, they felt safe. Moreover, the vigilance in the American Empire was much lower than in Hua Xia's. Why were there so many scenes in the movies of the American Empire where cars on the side of the road could be casually opened and driven away? Americans often didn't lock their car doors when driving. They might even throw their keys in the car. It was even more so in the wealthy districts. Not only did they not lock their car doors, but they also left their doors unlocked. No one would steal from them. Of course, this didn't mean that the entire American Empire was like this. If you went to Detroit or the areas bordering the United States, you would be lucky if you didn't lose your car, let alone the things in the car. The crime rate in the American Empire was high because the statistics were different from Hua Xia's. In public places in the American Empire, except for bars, such as the streets or cinemas, drinking alcohol would be immediately arrested. Even if it was beer, they would be handcuffed and have their fingerprints taken. Finally, they would be taken to court. Fighting would be treated the same. Once there was an arrest record, unless a lawyer was hired to clear it, the record would follow the system for life. It would be very difficult to find a job or apply for a loan. Serious speeding and drunk driving were also considered crimes. It was much stricter than Hua Xia's. If drunk driving was a crime in Hua Xia, perhaps half of the drivers would have committed a crime. There was another characteristic of the criminal population in the United States. Black people made up the majority of the criminal population, and nearly half of the adult black men had been imprisoned before. To put it simply, most of the black people in the American Empire lived in poor neighborhoods that were very dilapidated and concentrated. They had one thing in common, which was that most of their crimes were committed in front of their homes. They almost never went to the wealthy districts to harass people. Therefore, in the big cities of the United States, the black district and the rich district were often only one street apart, but the difference was like heaven and hell. More than 90% of the murders in Boston happened in the 3 southern black districts. It was basically black people killing black people. The other neighborhoods in Boston were not affected at all. Moreover, when night fell on Chicago, sporadic shots could be heard from the tall buildings of the University of Chicago looking out over the ghetto, and this did not make life difficult for the Chicagoans. Therefore, even if the Japanese gangsters came to the wealthy district of Beverly Hills, they wouldn't do as they did in the dirty and messy streets. They would still have a certain amount of self-control. The black people always wanted human rights, always wanted fairness, and always feared discrimination. However, even after being liberated for more than 100 years, they still didn't really have a change. Perhaps it was because they were still in the process of transforming from a primitive society to a slave society, but they were torn apart by the Europeans and forced into modern society. The black people didn't develop their own culture and traditions before they entered the United States. People who understood history knew that before World War II, there were no black people in Africa who established their own republic. The black people's country was actually a tribe. That's right, it was a tribe. They had almost no achievements or achievements of civilization. There were no major battles in history where black people were the majority. Of course, Other than the movement to protect human rights and various sports records, black people didn't have any impact on history. This was why their status in the United States was relatively low. Today, it could be seen that black people were more or less a chronic disease in the American empire. Many black men, if they became successful in music or sports, would marry a white girl to show their social status. The football star Simpson was one of them. After he became famous, he was only interested in white girls. In order to get rid of his black skin, he even spent a lot of money to hire a speech correction expert. After repeated practice, he got rid of his thick black slum accent. He dumped his original black wife and married a white blonde girl with blue eyes. But in the end, he couldn't escape from his wife's murder. The black people's tendency to violence was far more serious than other races. This was something they had to admit. Also, it could be seen that if black women became successful, such as the Secretary of State of the United States, most of them would choose to be single because they couldn't find a black man who was worthy of them. In fact, the ratio of black and white marriages in the United States wasn't high. Those who could play with white girls were rich black people, those sports stars, those musical geniuses. At this moment, the poor district where the Japanese gangsters lived corresponded to the safety and stability of the wealthy district in front of them. The gangsters didn't care about the police in the rich district at all because they knew that the police in the rich district were too fat to walk. They couldn't even touch their feet when they bent down. The Japanese gangsters also knew that in the independent residential district surrounded by green lawns and flowers, these rich people could live without locking their doors. Here, if one wanted to enter someone's house, it would be like entering a no-man's land. Wasn't it like this in American dramas? Knocking on the door would open it. Many houses could be opened without anyone inside. The American Empire must have lost a lot of money selling locks. Of course, there weren't many poor districts in the American Empire, except for Detroit. Most of them were in one or two poor districts near the city center. Speaking of some bad diseases, the thieves in the American Empire were quite unique, but they were all extremely stupid. Sometimes, children and old women could play them to death. These people weren't even worthy of carrying shoes for the bikers, hand choppers, and head smashers in Huaxia. Perhaps it was because of the lack of intelligence and hands-on skills. Although the ratio of gangsters in the American Empire was higher than in Huaxia, there were almost no thieves. The jobs that required high skills were still in Huaxia. There would be some funny reports in the newspapers of the American Empire. Some said that an 80-year-old lady fought a robber in her house and beat the robber until he fled in panic. It was best if the robber got stuck in the sewer and couldn't get out. Some said that a stupid thief used a pantyhose to cover his head and used a gun to rob a bank. In the end, he couldn't see who was who, and when he came out, he couldn't find the door and could only wait to be arrested. That was why IQ was a problem. More importantly, the American Empire's police system was very advanced. Basically, in urban and rural areas, there were 3 types of police cars at the scene. Although there weren't many policemen, they were fully equipped with guns and cannons. They fired when they needed to, without hesitation. Huaxia's public security police couldn't be compared to the American Empire. There were so many of them. Every police station had at least a dozen of them, right? Once there was a problem, most people liked to kick the ball. How many of them could carry guns when they were on duty? Or rather, they didn't have guns at all. Taking down criminals basically relied on persuasion and education. It couldn't be helped. Huaxia's criminals were smart. Their brains could react, unlike the American Empire's criminals who were one-track minded. Unless they aimed at them and warned them to shoot, they wouldn't be obedient. Otherwise, it was useless to say anything. Perhaps it was because of these different reasons that the gangs in the American Empire were quite different from the gangs in Huaxia. That was why the American gangs didn't come here with their teeth bared and claws brandished. If it were Huaxia, they would have smashed the door with a stick and made it known to everyone within 1,000 meters. The gangs in Huaxia actually liked to show off, but there weren't many who dared to shoot people to death. However, the gangs in the American Empire looked like fools, but they would really shoot when they were anxious. This place is a wealthy district. I don't want you to cause trouble for me. Board started to give orders. So, other than the target, don't harass anyone else. Understand? Understood. Board's subordinates nodded. They all knew that the rich in the American empire couldn't be provoked. Although the rich didn't join gangs, they had the means to make people like them, who had no social status, die a horrible death. Board was relieved. Get ready to surround them. Chapter 3802. Although the sound of footsteps outside the house was very soft, it still couldn't escape Su Yun and Lin Ji's ears. The legend was still doing what Su Yun asked him to do. He didn't notice anything at all. Guess how many people there are? Su Yun suddenly asked Lin Guo with a smile on his face. Su Yun could tell from the unfiltered noises that it was just a motley crew. There was no one who was really capable. Lin Guo thought for a moment and said, 100. Why do you think so? If there are 100 people, it will be troublesome. Su Yun said, I don't want them to damage public property. What are you talking about? The legend looked up at the two talking behind him. What do you mean by how many people there are? What do you mean by 100 people is troublesome? Lin Gu glared at the legend. Children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking. Don't you know such a simple rule? How can you be so rude? You have no manners. The legend lowered his head again, depressed. Lin Gu continued, Bro, think about it. If that fatty from the fitness club went to recruit less than 100 people, would he dare to bring them here? How did the 30 guys in the fitness club kneel down? Even if he didn't see it, he should have guessed it. The pen in the legend's hand fell on the table. Excited? Su Yun looked at the legend with a smile. I didn't expect that fatty to be so loyal to you. No, to your money. The legend gasped hard. What is the meaning of this? Don't you understand? Lin Gu was speechless. That fatty will save you. Or rather, save your money. Do you understand now? The legend shook his head. Are you kidding me? If you want to understand it that way, then so be it. Su Yun, but let me give you a piece of advice. Don't think too much. Even if he comes, I won't let him take you away. The legend's heart was filled with excitement. Although he wasn't sure if the meat shield would bring people back to save him, now that he heard what Su Yun and Lin Gu said, he felt that it was true. He didn't know why, but he felt that the meat shield was really here. Because the people outside were getting closer and closer, Su Yun's judgment became more and more accurate through the sound. I'm afraid there are less than 100 people. Su Yun glanced at Lin Gu. Lin Gu nodded. If I'm not mistaken, there should be around 60 of them. This number is more reliable. Su Yun smiled. Go and prepare. I think they want to give us a surprise. Lin Gu immediately got up to find a convenient hiding place. The legend looked at Su Yun in surprise. Is he really here? If it's not your little fatty coming to save you, then why are there suddenly so many people here? Is someone plotting to steal your house? Su Yun asked. Or did the local gangs hear that you're rich and want to rob you? The legend shook his head. That's impossible. The local gangs wouldn't come here. This is a rich district. No one dares to cause trouble here. Su Yun shrugged. It's not that no one dares to cause trouble here. It's just that the cost of causing trouble here is too high. Maybe they won't get the benefits they deserve. Therefore, no one wants to do this kind of business that loses money. This way, things would be a bit boring. You're right. You're so rich. There should be a lot of people after you, right? Su Yun, if it were me, I'd definitely want to take something from your pocket. You have money anyway. You don't care at all. The legend shook his head. No one dares to kidnap me. But I've heard that the Chinese gangs like to rob their compatriots. Su Yun continued, there are quite a lot of Chinese in the west coast of the United States. There are also quite a number of Chinese gangs. It's quite strange that you haven't been robbed while you're still alive. The legend shook his head. Of course I have. I knew it. They wouldn't be able to explain themselves if they didn't rob you. You deserve it, Su Yun said. Although you live in such a good house and ride such a good car, do you think those compatriots in the United States who are not rich would let you go? But after they robbed me, I made them regret it. The legend said, I know very well how to deal with our compatriots so that they wouldn't dare to mess with me. So from then on, no Chinese gangs dared to mess with me. Su Yun smiled. Although the Chinese mafia was a little cruel to their own compatriots, they should be quite nice to the natives of the United States, right? They should have a good relationship with the local people with status. It couldn't be helped. It was the nature of the Huaxia people. They knew how to build relationships wherever they went. Even if they were gangsters, they would first sort out their relationships before they could mingle in society with peace of mind. As long as I let them know the price of messing with me, they will understand that I'm not someone they can afford to mess with. The legend looked at Su Yun proudly. I'm a man of status in Los Angeles. People with status here will give me some face. Su Yun continued, so, the Chinese gangs will definitely give you face, even if it's just to build a good relationship with those who give you face. The legend was stunned. That wasn't what he wanted to say. He wanted to say that he was a man of status, and that the Chinese gangs wouldn't do anything to people of status. They would like to make friends with people of status like him. But now, it seemed that Su Yun's words hit the nail on the head and were even more appropriate. If the meat shield really comes to save me, I hope you can spare his life. The legend said, if he comes to save me, it means that he's a responsible bodyguard. He didn't let me down. He's a man of honor. He's a good man. He serves his own master. I don't blame him for wanting to save you. Su Yun smiled. But don't be so happy. Being responsible is all nonsense. You know very well that he won't give up the high salary you give him every year. If he can't hold you, he will lose this considerable salary. The legend lowered his head. Can't you be a little more optimistic? Are you lecturing me? Su Yun said, don't think that I don't know your little tricks. Why do you want me to believe your emotional story? Do you really think I can't see through you? If the meat shield can come once, he can come a second time. If I catch him and let him go because he's moved by your story, he'll have another chance to save you. Am I right? The legend was now in an awkward position. Su Yun had seen through everything he was thinking. Don't play tricks on me, Su Yun said. You're still too green. The legend didn't know what to say anymore. He looked around, hoping that the meat shield would break in like a hero, appear before him, and catch Su Yun and Lin Gu. Su Yun seemed to be able to read minds. I think that even if your fatty comes, he'll knock on the door politely. He definitely won't come through the window. You don't have to look. The legend was stunned. If they were going to break in, they wouldn't have to surround them. Now that they were surrounded, it meant that they wanted to talk to them. If the fatty really dared to come with only 60 people, it meant that they had a lot of guns and weren't afraid. But this was the wealthy district of the American Empire. They didn't want to cause trouble here. If they caused trouble here, it would be something they didn't want to see. Of course, all this was just Su Yun's guess. Su Yun wasn't sure what the other party would do. After all, those who dared to come to the wealthy district with guns and surround other people's houses were definitely not rational people. There must be a lot of hot-headed black people. This was an uncertain factor, so Su Yun couldn't make a definite judgment. No one could make a definite judgment. There were too many uncertainties in this kind of thing. Chapter 3803. Just as the legend was holding on to a faint glimmer of hope, there was a knock on the door. The legend's heart was in his throat. He wanted nothing more than to shout, "I love you," at the top of his lungs. I was right, wasn't I? Su Yun smiled at the legend. The legend was so excited that his fingers were trembling. Su Yun could tell that the legend was very, very hopeful. Lin Gu had already disappeared from the legend's sight. No one knew where Lin Gu was hiding. The knocking on the door paused for a moment before it sounded again. This time, the knocking was much louder than before. "I know you're inside," the legend said. I'm warning you, don't do anything rash. You're surrounded. If you do anything out of line, I won't let you leave this place alive. Su Yun smiled. The door isn't locked. You guys aren't honorable people, so there's no need to be so polite. Just come in. The legend immediately twisted the lock. As expected, the door wasn't locked. It opened with a click. You're reinforcements, aren't you? Su Yun smiled. He stopped the legend, who was about to stand up, and motioned for him to sit down. The legend didn't want to listen to Su Yun's nonsense. However, the legend calmed down when he saw that the legend's men were all holding guns. The legend knew that the guns were aimed at Su Yun and had nothing to do with him. However, he was still worried that the guns would go off accidentally. He was a man who cherished his life very much. After the legend's men squeezed into the room with the legend, Board walked in. At the same time, the legend's men all opened the windows and aimed their guns at Su Yun. Su Yun held down the legendary battle pet warrior and smiled at everything. He knew that although there were many guns in the American Empire, and there were many people with guns, and there were even more people who would raise their guns at the slightest provocation, they would never pull out their guns and start shooting. Their ability to control themselves was quite good. Even the black man, who had the worst control over his violent tendencies, would not easily shoot someone to death. How do you know we're gangsters? Board yawned. You've committed a kidnapping. We're the Los Angeles police. We're here to arrest you. Although you look like a police officer, you American Empire police officers do things in a very high-profile manner and follow the rules. Su Yun shook his head. You don't follow the rules at all. You're so low-key. You're worried that you'll attract the attention of the rich, right? When the real police come, you'll have a headache. Board laughed and rubbed his hands when he saw Su Yun handle the situation so well. He knew that this guy was experienced. Otherwise, anyone would be scared in front of so many guns. Don't worry, Mr. Carlos. I promise you'll be fine. The legend comforted the legend. As long as we're here, he won't dare to do anything to you. The legend nodded carefully. He wanted the legend to know that he trusted him very much. You don't seem to know the trouble you're in. It won't be easy to take him away. Su Yun smiled. But you're a responsible bodyguard. I believe that even if you fail this time, you won't lack employers in the future. The legend looked at Su Yun calmly. I advise you to be smart. You can't call the shots here. I've taken over. Ha ha, my brother. To be exact, I should be the one taking over, Board said with a smile. Hello, Mr. Carlos. You can call me Board. Let me briefly introduce myself. There are 64 of my brothers here, so don't worry. You'll be safe. The legend let out a sigh of relief and smiled at Board. However, he was afraid of gangsters, especially since Board's men were all of Latin American descent. He was even more unsure. However, the legend didn't blame the legend. He believed that the legend had to deal with the situation because of special circumstances. He could only find gangsters to solve the problem. Mr. Carlos, your smile is worthless to me. I need you to give me a guarantee. Board revealed his true motive. If you can give me a guarantee, I'll let my men save you. If you can't, then I won't let my brothers risk their lives for you. The legend glared at him. He turned and yelled, Board, you can't raise the price. Hey, brother, you've misunderstood me. I'm not that kind of person. It's just that the situation here is more complicated than I thought, so I have to kill people. The $1 million you promised is too little. Board shook his head. To be honest, the legend didn't care about $1 million. He stared at Board with wide eyes, hoping to get a number from him. However, he didn't dare to speak. After all, Su Yun was right beside him. Then how much do you want? The legend looked at Board cautiously. Board grinned. I'll give all of the $1 million to my brothers today. If each of them can get $20,000, I believe they'll be very happy and will work very hard. However, $1 million doesn't seem to be enough. I have 64 brothers, but I believe Mr. Carlos isn't the kind of person who would care about paying an extra $300,000, right? The legendary warrior nodded without hesitation. Beautiful. Board laughed out loud. I knew Mr. Carlos was a straightforward person. However, there's one more thing I need to talk to you about. My brothers have already gotten what they deserve, but what about me? I have to bear all the responsibility. I also need Mr. Carlos's approval. How much do you want? The legend raised his voice. Board shook his head at the legend. This is a business between me and Mr. Carlos. It's better if you don't interfere. Board, you're not being considerate, the legend said calmly. The meat shield said indifferently, how are you going to show your face in the future if word of this kind of behavior gets out? Board shrugged nonchalantly. I've always been this kind of person. Everyone knows that. The legend was helpless. My brother, this has nothing to do with you. I'll help you explain to Mr. Carlos that you definitely didn't use this to profit. Board smiled and said to the legend, Mr. Carlos, you know what? This guy told me at the start that he would only give me $100,000. He saved you a lot. The legend was very grateful to the legend. However, he was also grateful to Board for raising the price, even if Board wanted to ask for more money. Board, I hope you can have a limit. The legend was speechless. I don't need that much. $5 million shouldn't be much to Mr. Carlos, right? Board smiled. This guy's appetite was really big. The legend almost had a falling out with Board. This guy really didn't let him down. He was really asking for an exorbitant price. Although he didn't ask for $10 million, $5 million was already a ridiculous amount. However, $5 million really didn't matter to the legend in his current situation. Even $10 million wouldn't matter. At this moment, the legend suddenly asked, Where's the other person? At this moment, Lin Gu suddenly appeared from his hiding spot. He grabbed the meat shield in his hand and pulled out a tactical dagger from the scabbard on the meat shield's body. He pressed the dagger directly against the meat shield's neck. Let's see who dares to move. Lin Gu shouted angrily. The legend of legendary battle pet warrior slapped his forehead in frustration. He was so excited that he had forgotten about Lin Gu. It was all Board's fault. All he could think about was how to raise the price. The moment he opened his mouth, everyone's attention was diverted to the topic of money. That was why Lin Gu had the chance to sneak an attack. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Board cried out in surprise. This really gave me a shock. What's the meaning of this? I don't understand. Lin Gu ignored Board. Don't talk nonsense. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll slit your brother's neck. It'll be too late for you to regret it then. Board grinned and made a surprised expression. Aren't you being a little too violent? Oh no, no, no. I definitely won't let you hurt my brother. Tell me what you want and I'll satisfy you. Tell your men to put down their guns. Lin Gu was really naive. When he heard Board call the meat shield my brother, he really thought that they were good friends. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.